All right, this is collective bargaining between the Escambia County Board of County Commissioners and the ATU for the purposes of the bargaining unit at ECAT. It's April 16th, 2021. It's approximately 9:29 a.m. Central Standard Time. We have circulated a sign-in sheet, and I think everyone has signed it. Mike and Curtis, you ready to go forward? Okay, good. So,
Yes.
So after our last session, the way our session ended is that we articulated that we thought that that we were not making progress because from our perspective, it might not be your perspective, we understand, but from our perspective, we thought that what we were working with was too convoluted, had too many issues raised, and that we were kind of at a point where we weren't able to reach agreement on some of the core issues. Most of them operational, maybe some of them were economic. One of the things that we articulated was that we wanted to have a simpler contract. That we found that there's too much in the contract as proposed by the ATU, and that it would make the administration of such an agreement very difficult for us, and that we liked, and we like the kind of simplicity and straightforwardness that is reflected in the collective bargaining agreement that we have been negotiating for the operational services unit at Escambia County. And I think we're very close to an agreement on that, in that unit. So what we've done is we went back to the drawing board, and we went through this agreement, and we have picked up all of the language without a change to what we have TA'd to date. By to date, I mean, in the second round of negotiations, because as we all know, there was a first round of negotiations that led to an agreement that was not ratified by the county commission. So we have a contract now that we believe we can get ratified. It has all the most recent TAs. For example, Article 11, 12, 22, 23, 27, 29, 30, 40, 43, 44, 48.
He's
Okay,
looking
I
at
guess
the
I-
slides.
I'm trying to write
I'm
them down.
trying to write them down, so. You're
I'll say
rambling.
All right, 11,
Got it.
12, 22,
23,
23, 27, 29, 30, 40, 43, 44, 40, we have 43, 44, 48, 50, 52, 54, and an article called General Provisions. It does not have a number. Now, what we have done is we've taken those articles and we have blended them with simplified, direct language for the remainder of the contract. Some articles have been consolidated. Some articles have been eliminated. I could go through those just before since we're making lists.
This is the eliminated?
These are the eliminated.
Or consolidated.
articles. I'll tell you which one are consolidated and eliminated. Article 3 is eliminated. Article 4 is eliminated. Article 6 is consolidated with Article 5. Article 9 is consolidated with Article 8. Article 14 is eliminated. Article 16 is consolidated with.
Hold on, Mike, you're going a little too fast for me to write.
All right, I'll start from the top.
I got Article 11 is with Article 9, and it was condensed, and what else?
Article 9 goes to Article 8. Article 14 is eliminated. Article 16 is consolidated with Article 8. Article 17 is consolidated with Article 8. Article 26 is eliminated. Article 36 is eliminated. Article 37 is consolidated with Article 27. Article 38 is consolidated with Article 35. Article 46 is consolidated with the unnumbered but TA'd general provisions article. So that's language that's been added to that. 47 is also consolidated with the general provisions article. Article 49 is eliminated. Article 51 is consolidated with the general provisions article. Article 53, we believe, is eliminated because it's obsolete. And Article 55, we believe, is eliminated because it's obsolete. So that leaves several articles that we have provided for a contract that's going to run about 50 pages long, and we think is maybe something we can agree upon. It's where the county wants to be. We asked ourselves since the last session, and after a long period of our negotiations, you know, where does the county, where are we at? What can we get ratified? What can we
By
live
who?
with?
Or ratified by which side?
Well,
your
ratified by
side?
our side, yeah. I mean, because that was where the last contract failed, because it was not ratified by the county commission.
Yeah, well, I don't, a lot to be said about that moment, but that's okay.
So we have a copy of this
I'm
contract.
not sure the county did it properly when they ratified it. They didn't actually acknowledge which articles they were not ratifying. They just, I guess, did a broad thing and didn't ratify every article? Was that their position? After you negotiated it for 2 years?
But they were, you know, they were given a contract, and they could ratify the contract or not ratify the contract. Think about what happens when you submit a contract for ratification to your rank and file.
Yeah, sure.
They don't ratify it by article. They ratify the contract or not ratify the contract.
Sure, no, that's not, no, they ratify the whole contract, but they also, if there's specific issues in the contract that, well, actually, we went through every single article with them. So if they had issues with an article, they would have specifically come out and told us those issues, and then we would express it back to you, but
Well, I mean, generally,
that would have been the proper
yeah,
way to
yeah,
do it.
generally, what you're telling me is that they might express concerns about aspects of the contract, but nobody ratifies a collective bargaining agreement article by article unless you have a reopener, and there's a limited number of articles that are being presented. I can see in the reopener that would be the case, but a whole contract is submitted. A contract in its whole was submitted for consideration by the county commission, and we voted the whole thing down. And I think, you know, what's reflected in what we're going to give you today is, I think, this is what they were looking for, which is a contract that was, I mean, they're comfortable and they've ratified the operational services contract in the past. I think that's the kind of contract that we're looking for.
Two different contracts, two totally different units.
Well, there's,
Totally different units.
no, we're not asking you to accept the exact language of that other contract. What we're doing is having a simplified contract that's, with brevity, covers the subjects that we think are appropriate for inclusion in collective bargaining.
Yeah, but it's.
Mike Lattimore, I have a question and concern that we bargained with you and the same team well, you, Kirsten, and,
It's Kristen,
were the
Mr.
most,
Howard.
Kristen, were the same players that we negotiated before. You had executive sessions with the county and everything else. You TA'd things with us. So you're telling us that was, not in good faith at that time, and they wasn't comfortable with what you were seeing. I read my notes, and I don't recall your position at negotiations, being part of your opening statement.
Well,
So I know we left the table where we were expecting you to give us some counter proposal, and we left at that note. I don't remember, or I have it documented, of course it'll be on the tapes, since we videotape, or recorded the sessions, but it's not in my notes that you, were not comfortable with anything, and that your position was, that the county was, wanting to cut off the rest of it. And
if you're talking,
the last thing I'll close on is that this is not a, reopen a contract. This is a contract that's carrying over from public to private, so the whole contract has to have consideration. So this is not one that goes to either side in the content of we're just trying to, negotiate the things that are, troubling during the last 3 years that we'd like to see change. This is an entire contract, and the county commissioners, have brought us to this 3 year long plus 3 years plus long negotiation, with a transit contract wanting to be like a county contract, which is, in my opinion, is ridiculous. I'm not gonna bite my tongue. I think they're ridiculous in trying to get a transit contract to look like, it is. And, y'all changed every wording, changed the spelling, changed the commas, changed it. When, no transit contract read the way that you guys want to read it. So we made concessions with you guys just by the sake of it, and then you guys have thrown the negotiation weeks and times out for months without wanting to come to the table and all that. This has been one of the worst experiences I've had in negotiation as far as trying to get a labor agreement, but I'll leave it on that.
well, there was a lot said, and I don't know if, it ranged across a number of issues. I'll try to address them for your purposes, Curtis. At the
I
last
wasn't
board
looking for
meeting
you to
session.
address them, I choose, so that's fine.
So-
I wasn't-
All right,
So there's a bunch of articles you didn't call out. We're kind of curious about that. You didn't call
all of
out-
them are in the contract.
Hey, Curtis, I did want to address something,
Contract?
point of clarification, because you stated that
You're
you,
still negotiating those things.
We have,
okay, yeah, sorry, can I address Curtis first? I was answering one of those questions. One of the points you brought up is that, as the county, we wanted a contract to look like a county contract and not a transit contract, because y'all are significantly different, and you had never seen that. In the last session, you referenced the Sarasota contract, and when we went and looked at it, it literally was 20 pages long, I think 20 articles, and it referenced, most of the time, it relegated everything back to the Sarasota County's policies. So, I do know one exists in Florida like that.
So, Sarasota's contract is, unique to Sarasota. And I don't have all of the history of Sarasota's contract. I did negotiate the last labor agreement with Sarasota. Much different atmosphere working with the county. But, there's clearly a difference here. This contract, I know, has 75 plus years of, being contracted out to a private sector. I'm sure that Sarasota County Transit doesn't have that history. So we're not talking apples and apples when we talk about, comments to that. So, if we want to look at their company policy, their policies and things of that nature, I will tell you that county has a totally different atmosphere about working with the union. I will tell you that the county they didn't want, I'll give you a good example, they didn't want, camera language in the contract because they felt like they were gonna do the right thing. So they put in the policy the exact same verbiage almost that we wanted to have in the contract, and that policy, and then they said they will not make any changes and agree to it, unless APU is agreeable upon it. So the atmosphere in which the county works with the union is totally different. This county, as Gateway County, does not do that, and we definitely didn't have the wage issue concerns that we have here. So it's not apples to apples. Their board of commissioners or whoever makes the decisions on their end works in the spirit of working in harmony. This has not been the case with this county.
So this is straight through contract.
There's a clean copy
clean
and a
and strike.
strike through copy.
Right.
We're also
So
gonna,
you're proposing this is the union contract,
I don't know what you have here.
the clean copy?
So
Yeah.
are you telling me
The
this is
entire
your best
contract?
and final offer? Now, Lamar, you're saying this is your best and final?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so at the last session, you told us that you were bringing your best and final, is what you're saying?
at the last meeting, we expressed that we were gonna come in with a new concept, of how to approach the contract with a streamlined, more efficient approach. Because with all the language and what was being passed back and forth, we were bogging down and had bogged down. That's what we said last time. This is what we brought in. Now, if you're asking me, this is the contract we want. If you take this contract away and you say, we want to make a change to it here or there, I mean, we're not closing the door to that. If that's what you mean by last and final, no. If you come back and say, we want to make changes to the grievance article, we'll certainly entertain that. But,
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, Mike, as best and final, yes.
no, we're still open to changing this document. But, you know, we want to make it clear that this document is what we like and what we want to proceed with in its scope, and simplicity. And, so, we do not think that we're making progress, with
Well,
the
you-
language that has been on the table and going back and forth. I mean, we're quite frankly, and I may be exaggerating a little bit, but it's been my experience, it's been my observation, and I think it's yours too, Curtis, that for a while now, we've been just passing the same language back and forth.
Yeah, but
don't agree.
I also feel like, you know, when you get agreements, it's because we're sitting at the table on a regular basis going through it, and as we've done here, with both sides give a little bit of compromise in order to move on. We've been months without having any type of discussions, and then when we do, we have to take these long conferences in order to try to compromise, see what we can do and go back and forth. So what I'm used to is, and my experience has been that you sit down and try to get as many dates as you can and get it over with. So it didn't happen here because the county's schedule is about to so busy, they can connect their calendar. And really just about, well, we always, you know, give the dates and say, let's do that. But here's what I want. So I need somebody to send me a copy and we'll go through it.
I'll send it to you, Curtis.
So, yeah, I mean, how do you get a contract done when the county, not the union, the county is the one that holds negotiations up consistently by negotiating one day at a time over 1 to 2 to 3 months at a time? That's not negotiating. And then in your last session, Mike, you said to us that you thought it was a great idea. You even thought it was made a lot of sense that we would sit down and outside of the negotiations and negotiate some operational articles like 31 and 33 and 36 and 39. You even said that. But Ms. Ellis comes back to me and expresses to me that she can't do it without chief negotiator in the room, which I don't know which chief negotiator she's talking about, but she can't do that, okay? So to me, there was a true intent on it anyways. If you're saying that that labor contract that's in front of me, compared to the one that we have, is what you want. So you're saying you're trusting your management team to do to conduct business operationally and do it well. And you are in a sad state of affairs, because this transit system is in a sad state of affairs right now. You're 17 to 18 drivers down, you're losing them, you're firing people without giving them due process. And yeah, you're gonna get grievance on this, firing this lady without due process.
Per
Not even-
federal law.
Not even having the
Per
guts.
federal law.
Not- I'm
And she
speaking
got the
now,
letter
I'm
as
speaking
well.
now, you
But
asked me
you're
to not
saying
speak.
inaccurately, you're speaking falsehoods.
So let me make
So
sure.
if we speaking false or not, it's not for you to interrupt and be discourteous to him.
You might not
just saying
like
not,
what I'm
and then you
saying.
speak your piece.
You might not like what I'm
Not that I
saying,
don't like
but
it,
this
but-
lady is a member of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1395. She had every right to have her union in a due process to see what was the intent of the involuntary separation.
I don't think
Okay?
we're here to
Now-
discuss any
No, I'm
specific
just-
discipline or grievance.
You know, I'm
We're
gonna
here
interrupt you
to-
all day long too.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, don't
We're here to
penalize her
discuss
for my
collective
mistake.
bargaining.
Well, she's
That's
jumping
not
in
fair.
too,
So-
okay? I'm trying to make a point.
Well, she's trying to bring it back to what we're here for. We're here to negotiate a
We're not here to
contract,
discuss
not discuss grievances or
disciplinary
The
disciplinary. That's
workforce
outside of what
is
this is.
angry. They are frustrated.
Yes, we hear that.
They are angry, not at the union. They're angry
Your
with their
perception.
management team and the county, because nothing seems to ever get done. You can't seem to operate a transit system very well right now, okay? And I don't see it in the near future. You have poor equipment. You have numerous potential safety issues that are always happening constantly, okay? And I'm just telling you, this is, you have a director who is out of touch with the workforce, okay? Yesterday, she can speak for herself, she can talk about it, but I heard what happened in the break room, or when she spoke to Michael Brooks, and, they're angry. You think they're gonna be angry about what's happening now? Wait till they see this. Wait till they see a union that has been fighting for them since 1945, and you're trying to compare us to Sarasota that's only had a union for about 20 years, and we've had a union for 75. Now, if that's what your goal is to do, is to make our contract look like the operational contract, which is basically not it's a contract that's more of a management contract, not a labor management contract, where it's a good contract that both sides can follow. It's controlled by your side only. I'm just saying to you, you have a choice. Do you want a transit system or not? Do you want to have happy employees or not? You are not going to have any happy employees going forward when I have to show them this. But that's fine. She's gonna pay the price, because they work with her, and they're gonna be very angry. They're gonna be very upset. And I feel like your side is trying to destroy the transit system, not bring it up. You're not doing things that make the transit system good. I will say, the man over there on the side is the man that seems to be trying to do some things that are good for the workers. He at least communicates. Communication stops with him. So, we'll take, Curtis will take a break, we'll look at what they did, and we'll go from there.
All right,
But they have a history of operational things not being very successful, of doing things properly, even operationally. And the union has to come behind and clean it up constantly. They can't even do a vacation bid. You can't even get 2 years in a row. You can't even get a vacation bid for people to be able to pick their vacation. You can't even do that in a timely manner. You can't even get uniforms on the people's backs. It's taken since October of 2019 until you finally, there's Mr. He's wearing his jeans today because that's his situation. He doesn't have any pants. And now I hear you all put some uniforms out in the break room. I don't know, but I'm getting complaints from the employees about it. But I don't understand what you're trying to do here. If you're trying to destroy the union, then you're doing a great job. If you're just trying to destroy the transit system, you're doing an excellent job. I'm passionate about this. Yes, I love the transit system. I spent every day of my life fighting for the transit system and fighting for the workers and to ensure that we provide a service that is going to be good and great for the citizens of the community. I didn't spend 25 years of my life committed to the transit system for the employees to end up with something like this.
Well, everybody on this side respects your right to express yourself, Mike. We don't want our respectful listening to what you had to say to suggest that we agree. But you certainly have your right to have your perspective or to express it. And so, we have heard what you had to say.
Doesn't really matter. I did it for the recording. not
All right,
for-
well, look, we're at the point now, let's just caucus, because too much is being said across the table. I need to talk about it.
All
Let's
right,
go.
we'll go away and go into a caucus, and we appreciate it. Thank you
So
very
we get to
much.
stay in here?
If you want to, yeah.
Okay.
No, I prefer, we don't stay in that recording room. No, that's not what I like.
I can take y'all to the side room.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go to the side.
All right.
You got your rain jacket on, that's cute, I like the bus. There we go, now we're looking.
All right, we're back. I guess, Curtis, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you, Curtis. We didn't want to start without you, so,
So, Mike, what we need to do before we can, go over anything, we need to understand and have you walk us through your proposal. We don't want to run it, and we need to be able to ask many questions,
can you do that, Kristen, since
how it
we're
affects.
more intimately familiar with the language?
So please walk us through your proposal.
All right, I'm gonna pass the baton to Kristen, and she's going to, walk you through it.
Well, I don't know that we need to necessarily address the articles that have been were TA'd.
I agree. I don't think that's
No, we're
necessary.
not looking to the TA.
And the other provisions, I think you've probably seen most of these before. But we can start with Article 1, and you can let me know what you would like to discuss, if you have any questions.
We want you to explain your intent, and we want you to explain why you removed what you removed.
Removed what I removed. What's on the paper is what we're proposing. Do you have questions about that? You'll see definitions, the recognition provision, then we go to union dues, and the non-discrimination provision, which I believe was in the old contract. Do you have any questions about that?
Okay, that's how we're gonna do it. Okay.
No questions?
No, we got questions. Just
Okay,
thought
well,
maybe you were gonna.
I'm all ears.
I thought you were gonna describe some things, but that's.
What would you like me to describe?
Okay, so you struck through dues will be provided to the union, and then you struck through the process of, for instance, you took out the ability, well, let me put it this way. Currently, the dues are taken out on the first and second of the pay periods.
I believe these changes were requested by the clerk's office because it is their process.
So when will the clerk provide us our dues? When is the specific date when we will receive the dues after the two?
It's the last payday of the month. It's always the last payday of the month. It's automatic. Our system does it automatically.
So when you say that, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So most months have 2 pay periods, right?
Most
Sometimes
months.
there's 3, like I think this month, there's 3 this month, I'm not
Yes,
sure.
there's 3 this
So are you saying that
in a month when there's 2 pay periods, when after that second pay period will we see?
The ACH is processed on that Friday, so it should be, whenever your bank does the ACH, usually the following Monday, but that ACH is always processed on the last payday of the month. So this month it'll be processed on the 30th of the month, and I'm assuming you would see it in your bank by the following Monday.
Okay, because there's nothing that.
So let me jump in. So the clerk, Mike, I'm gonna talk with negotiator. Mike, there's nothing that suggests in your language what this young lady just said. It just says that the clerk will give it to you when it's open-ended in your proposal. It doesn't lock down anything remotely close to what she says. So that's a problem for us right there, it's open-ended. So it can be this month, it can be next month, it can be 3 months later, the way the language reads. Might be, that's our problem in that section.
Well, it says dues will be provided to the union financial secretary or president as soon as possible, with reasonable allowance
as soon
for
as possible.
processing the office of the clerk of court, payroll division. And I think we've talked about this in the past, that the clerk of court, which is the entity with the legal authority to take the dues out of the paycheck, not the county. So how do I enter into a contract representing and binding an entity that I do not represent? All I can say is that
So we need to have a separate contract with them about union dues?
I don't know if they'll enter into a separate contract with you about union dues, but I'm telling you that what we're willing to do is say, this is the process. We're going to make a deduction on the first and second payday of each month and then process it to the financial secretary as soon as possible, with a reasonable allowance for processing by the office of the clerk of the court. If you think that you're not receiving it as soon as possible with reasonable allowance, then you can file a grievance
With you.
Okay, well.
with me. I'll do what I can, but I can't do
Yeah,
much.
but you
I guess I
don't
could sue the
represent
clerk of the
them.
court.
We would file a grievance with you, but you don't represent them, that doesn't make sense.
I'd have to take whatever steps are available to me to see that they try to comply, but
Have you had an issue with union dues and deductions?
all these years
Yeah,
I've
but
been
there's,
doing it.
you know, at the moment, no, but we're always concerned about the future or the intent
So
of the language that's being created.
So Lamar, if we added something in here that says that it will be processed within that month, within the same month, would that be a problem?
I don't know.
It would in this case be, like if we're using this month as an example, it will be processed on the 30th, but you guys probably will not receive it until the following Monday, which would be May. It's always processed on the last payday, which again would be the 30th, so it would be processed on the 30th.
I
But
mean, we
if you
can
say
say
in the
that.
same month, you're not gonna
So-
receive it in the
so
same month
I'm-
because
I'm
it's
hearing what she
processing
said.
time from your.
Right, and that's.
She's on your
that-
team,
hold
she's
on,
been
Mike, hold
in
on.
every negotiation
That's a-
that we've had. Can't you all
That's a-
create a little language there that
Well, we can
satisfies
say,
this?
we can say
That's
that it'll be
cool.
processed on the last paycheck.
Will Curtis change that at all, Nikki, just?
No.
Okay,
No, Curtis will actually do the payment from
automatically.
Curtis.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
Yeah, we can put that
So
language.
now, Lamar,
Yeah,
right, like I'm saying, it's about processing it, it's not about when we receive it
That's-
as much. I mean, it is about us receiving it, but can we add something that says it'll be processed within the same month?
yes.
Okay, that's our concern, so
Okay.
that we can move forward to the next concern.
Okay, go ahead.
The next thing in that article is, I see you struck through COA. What's the intent there? Since it's been something that's been happening, I'm just curious, what's the intent there?
Right, can you read that one? What were you asking?
So it states in the first sentence of section 3 that the county agrees to deduct union membership dues in accordance with the applicable statutory provision in an amount established by the union and certified in writing, blah, blah, blah. So that's all that needs to be stated.
So are you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you please repeat that, please? Thank you.
Section 3 references the applicable statute under the Public Employees Relations Act.
Is that all you said?
That's all I said.
What is, so, I don't know what you're trying to say, sorry. Are you trying to say that you're not gonna deduct COLA? Is that what you're saying? Yes or no?
I'm saying we will deduct what the law allows us to deduct.
Okay.
Well, right now, it's being deducted, so why would it be a problem to leave it in there?
This is what we proposed.
So, under this other paragraph, it says deductions for union dues and across-the-board assessments. Is that what the statute says? Does it say across the board, or does it say something? I think it says something else.
It says.
Uniform.
It says dues and uniform assessments.
Okay. All right, we understand that one. Curtis,
So let me ask, so what was the why was it changed here when you guys proposed motion was said?
I
Help me
can understand.
understand that.
Well, we can certainly strike out across the board assessments and put uniform instead. And the reason why that is in that place is that it's mirroring the state law.
all right.
Okay,
All right, Curtis.
thank you.
Okay.
Next, probationary period. Article 2. Oh, that's right. I have to ask questions instead. Okay.
So, yeah, 90-day probationary period.
And, okay, so performance.
I think that's the current practice.
Mm. The probation period, the employee does not. So, in section 3, you say, first of all, you use, let's see here.
This is the language that I believe we previously proposed, and I think we've discussed it, and that was what I think we all agreed was acceptable.
But you struck through the 60-minute block.
You get permitted up to
And then
1
you're
hour
going with
during
the
the
language
interview.
at the bottom, right, with the employee's consent, with the employee's consent.
I thought that was what we had discussed in previous sessions, that the union would be permitted up to an hour during the orientation, and you have to coordinate with HR.
I thought we had discussed that the employee consent that was not going to be in there.
Yeah, we did talk about that, and we came to the conclusion that we can't force someone
Right.
to attend something like that.
Right.
Where does it say that in the statute?
There isn't a statute.
It's their
Right, so
free
then
right to choose, so
Why
if
you
they choose,
can't?
cause as the
you're-
employer,
we-
I'm answering your question, Curtis. It doesn't say it in the statute, but as the employer, I can't vie for or against the union. I have no authority over the union, I only have authority over the employee as it pertains to the Board of County Commissioners. So I can't tell them that they have to come to a mandatory thing on the behest of the union. We can't enforce that as a county to our
And the
employees.
employee can't be required.
Are they on the clock when they go to
I
this?
disagree. Here's why. They're coming into a collective bargaining agreement mission, and you're only having them sit through something to hear about what's affecting them, and it's only a 1 hour paid. And as long as you're paying them, you can have them there to listen to a presentation. It is solely up to their discretion whether they act on anything at all. But yes, you do have a right as an employee because they're coming into a bargaining employment.
So if they say during that
So-
time, I don't wanna listen to this, I'm gonna go step out in the hallway, we as a county have no recourse to take against that employee. I cannot discipline the employee because they didn't wanna sit through the union talks. I can't do that.
So what are they doing? Being unpaid at that point, or you still paying them?
They would still be paid for the time, hence why that's a problem to make it a mandatory thing. So that's why we do it beforehand, so if you wanna show up earlier and come to this union portion of it, you can choose to do so. If you choose not to, then you wouldn't get paid for that. But if they showed up because we told them it was mandatory, then you're right, it would put the county in quite the predicament if they chose not to attend it, but we still ask them to be there at a designated time.
Just for the record, that's a bunch of bullshit, but we understand your position.
Okay,
Okay, moving on. Grievance.
so, well, hold on, just wait, I wanna ask a question. So the next article that is in the contract, is Article 3, and what they say about 3, was that being,
Struck.
that's being struck through, which is the conference. So let me just make sure I got intent here. So you wanna strike through Article 3 and not, you wanna eliminate it out of the contract and no longer have labor management meetings, is that correct?
We're striking that from the contract, yes. We're proposing to strike it from the contract.
What, okay, I understand you're proposing, it. I'm asking, what's the intent of not having labor management?
Not having a contractual obligation to have those meetings.
Okay. That's some good relationship there. So I just wanna make sure I understand, because you proposed to eliminate.
When was the last time you had a meeting under that
I
provision?
proposed it, but Ms. Ellis has not agreed to do it.
Excuse me?
I have
What do you mean?
proposed labor management meetings to you and Mr. Kimbrough, but you guys have not responded to do it.
Well, let me just clarify,
Yeah.
so I can also address what you referenced earlier, for the record. Myself and Mr. Kimbrough, on multiple occasions, have communicated. It may not have been to the level or frequency that you have liked, but we have communicated on the issue of what was addressed from the previous negotiations of the additional articles. When you submitted the email, I stated to you in that email, I did respond to you, I did communicate with you, that we were not, those were articles within the negotiation. And I did not have the authorization, and someone from the chief negotiators would need to be in attendance. So at no point did I refuse to meet with you. I explained to you why I wasn't able to meet with you.
Okay.
So I just want to make that clarification for the record.
Okay, so let me respond back, because there's a difference between labor management meetings and having official meetings on specific issues. Like, for instance, when we did the budget meeting, you agreed that was totally separate. We had requested it and you agreed to do it. Labor management meetings are generally meetings, we don't meet on grievances, we don't meet on contractual issues. We're meeting to address day-to-day issues, to address maybe some safety issues, to try to work together to improve the transit system. at least with every other, management that I've had before, that's the intent of labor management. We don't come into these meetings wanting to negotiate a contract or discuss articles of the contract. We meet to discuss day-to-day issues that we're trying to make better for both sides. Not to, that's a separate type meeting. That's either a labor negotiations, or that is a separate meeting that's specifically on that one agenda item that has been asked to speak on. But I have sent over to speak on, requested to speak on labor management on issues that don't necessarily affect any of what you just said.
But when you make the statement that I have refused to meet with you, that is not a true statement.
On labor management.
Please show me where I've refused to meet with you on labor management.
Well, one of the
I
things
can
I
pull the
will
emails
say,
up.
Please
if we
do.
pull this from the contract, that actually will take away one of the reasons why the hesitancy is there to meet on labor management negotiations, because either it can be perceived as negotiable terms of the contract. So some of the terms that we remove, you now can meet with management on, because they're not terms of the contract any longer. So it wouldn't be perceived as negotiation. It would be perceived as the union and the management coming together to talk about what's the best interest of the operations, the employees, and what have you, that is not gonna be binding in the contract and would not require the whole team and the whole gamut to sit down. Because one of y'all's concerns that we've listened to and we've heard is that you have a very hard time getting this whole team together as the county, because we have so many different, we do county attorney, the department, HR, county administrator. We know we have a lot of people's calendars coordinate. So eliminating some of the articles from the CBA, making them no longer contractually negotiable terms that we're gonna all have to sit down at the table and talk about, will allow you all as the union and the employees more freedom to sit down with the management and have certain discussions that you are speaking to. Yes, sir.
Well, instead of eliminating the article altogether, why don't it just be renamed to where it's more equivalent to what, because I know with hurricane season coming up and stuff like that, that we're gonna need to talk with management on some issues, probably with the weather or
There's
groups
no
of people
reason
coming in.
that the union would be precluded from sitting down and talking to management.
That's the point
If
I
they
was-
ask. The point is that it won't be in the contract, there won't be a contractual obligation.
Or your,
Such.
correct. It won't be a contractual.
Yeah, so everything y'all
Actually,
are telling
under
us,
the
we
old
understand, but
contract-
it's,
Under the old
once again, a
contract,
bunch of that.
there really wasn't a contractual obligation, it just stated that, and I don't know, did you all ever meet did you appoint a committee as such and meet under this article?
Several times about roads and stuff like that.
Prior management, yes, obviously.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was consistent.
Well.
Under
in any
First
event,
Transit.
Well, it
did-
stopped.
Did we answer?
No,
your
no, that's
question?
not true, that's under
I
the
don't
county
think-
as well.
I think the point is, management has been open to discussing issues when they've been presented by the union. And there's no suggestion that that would change.
Well, it didn't happen under COVID, when Mike kept trying to get you guys to sit down and talk about COVID-19, no, there was no COVID-19, and that was one of the biggest, most famous things that you could do, and then it was a mad out, and, yeah, so, I don't know if I
You
agree with
asked
it.
what the intent was to take it out of the contract. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I
Okay.
understand now what your intent is. I don't necessarily agree with the idea that you're gonna be more open-ended to meet with us on issues. I don't necessarily, I think it actually says the
I
opposite.
said that I think management has been open and they will continue to.
I think without the language in the contract, it leaves management to be able to say, I don't have to meet with you, so.
And that's a trust thing, to be honest with you. Like, you should give us the chance. A lot of the terms that are contractually obligated, again, the point was, we can't talk about it unless we're all here as a team. And so, some of the stuff that we remove, y'all
Okay.
can talk about it with management without it being any kind of,
So I
even
guess,
semblance of contract.
I guess I'm a little confused on something.
Oh, hold on, Janet, but are you serious? You fired the union president, you want us to have trust and faith in that? Come on, be real, be real.
So, my question to you.
Justly so, but yes.
My question is this: when you say you kind of insinuate that you can't meet unless you have the team, meaning maybe,
We
I'm
can't
not,
conduct
I'm not sure who that
collective
is, okay? I'm not sure who you're saying, is it this team, or is it the team of management that runs the transit system? You know, just to meet.
I
to-
literally said the whole gambit here, and I literally named each and every single individual that I was speaking to in terms of coordinating calendar. When it is contract negotiable terms,
Of
Ms.
course.
Ellis could not do that on her own.
I get that, but that's not what labor management meetings, the
Correct.
intent of the labor management meetings.
You
are.
asked what our intent was with the proposal, and that's
The-
the question
the
that I
intent-
answered.
I know you don't like to have a lot of dialogue here, but that's okay.
No,
I'm gonna say
that's
what I'm
not
gonna
true.
say, and you can say what you wanna say, but I'm gonna say this. Labor management intent is for a relationship between the leadership, employees that work for her, and Mr. Kimbrough, and maybe their ops manager, their maintenance manager, to be in a room to discuss some daily issues that they're trying to make things run smoothly. We need to have those meetings to be successful, and we need.
And I'm not saying you won't have those meetings.
But, well, yeah, you did, you're taking it out of the contract. This contract said labor management meetings we're supposed to be in intent that, I'm not looking to talk about contractual issues in a labor management meeting. Contractual issues, Mike, are done right here, okay? Correct?
Yes.
But if I wanna talk about, the concern of the cleanliness of a bus, or the idea of some preparations on a route, or something to that effect, or what we're trying to address on a route, a concern. I can't sit there and exchange emails all day with management waiting for her to respond back. Maybe we should be having these monthly to strengthen the relationship, a trust factor. Let's have that monthly meeting. Let's start to build the trust. I wanna build the trust, okay?
And we're for that, but all the stuff being that's my point. All the stuff that is in the contract, a lot of it, we can't discuss. If it's in the contract, it could be perceived as contract negotiations, and we don't want any ill perception there. So that's our point, is that we can start having meetings like that if it's not perceived as any kind of related to the CDA
If
itself.
it's in the contract that you're supposed to have a labor management meeting, then you have to have it.
It doesn't have to be in the contract in order for that
For it
to
to occur, that's the point.
is the point. Can we move on to Article?
Your track record doesn't show that you're gonna
Or
follow
five.
through on that, though, but, okay, so that's three. And then you took, what happened to four? What happened to
Four.
four? Just, what did they say, Walt?
Eliminate.
It's been eliminated.
Eliminate. So, okay, eliminate. I think I understand that, okay?
Okay.
So then you go to five, and you wanna combine 5 and 6. So let's go through 5 and 6, which is grievance, and I'm assuming that's arbitration.
Arbitration.
Mhm.
So, now you gotta remember, we haven't had time to review it, so I'm gonna skim through this and look.
Okay.
Curtis, have you had a chance to look at 5 and 6? You probably can't hear me. Let's see here.
You can go ahead.
What, can I ask a question, let me ask a different question about 5 and 6. Let me ask it this way. Has there been a problem with the grievance arbitration process that's bothering you? Other than I would agree with you that the arbitration part that has the old language that talked about,
Doesn't make any, yeah.
that, I would agree that that is problematic. We
Yeah.
change that word.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, okay?
Right.
I get that, and I'd be open to
Right.
changing that. I mean, it's old trades union type language, right?
Right.
But-
So this is sort of a stab at it. I mean,
And-
take a
and
look
this
at
is
it. I don't think,
a
we're not gonna do
process-
anything weird with this.
This is a process that is pretty uniform throughout. the
Uniform
county
where?
And in the labor contracts that the county deals with and the county's typical process. And so it's pretty straightforward, and it's not all that different.
Section 2? That's under probation. You're right, turn right there.
Well, I mean, there's notice to the union, there's ability to be present.
There's step 1, 2, and 3, culminating with arbitration.
How long is the period to take to process agreements? How long does management have to, okay, so what I've seen with the county is there tends to be this long, drawn-out process of investigation, which is really extreme. Yeah, I did see that, yeah. And, it just.
This deals
it's-
with the grievance process.
I know, but I'm just trying to say, is this now with the grievance process attached to it, how many days are we talking here?
Well, there's
There are steps.
5
Oral
days.
discussion,
There's 5 days.
Which we don't have.
Response. No, there's 5 days, but step 1 is submit in writing within 10 days, 15-day response. Then at step 2, the representative can submit a grievance in writing within 5 days of receipt of the decision, step 1. The administrator then gives a response within 15 days. Then there's another, if no response is given, you could proceed to step 3. And then you go to arbitration, which is step 3. You 5 days to vote the arbitration process. FMCS for a roster, it's 7 days to select. Select an arbitrator within 10 business days of receiving the list from FMCS. Then, the parties pay the arbitrator's charges equally, so it's not loser pay, which has been found disapproved by the Public Employees Relations Commission. Hearings would be recorded, decisions are final and binding. If there's an arbitrability issue, it can be bifurcated. And we're open to, I mean, these are pretty compressed time frames. I'll grant you that, so that we go through the process quickly. If you wanted to open them up a little bit, we'd certainly consider that. If you wanted to have 10 or 15 days to move something along instead of 5, let's, you know, we're not trying to make this an arduous process for the ATU. If you need more time, I mean, we're kind of balancing two thoughts here. One is, we want a workable process for you, but we want to make it as fast as possible.
One suggestion too, which I know we've discussed in other sessions, is to expand the timeline by defining days as business days as opposed to calendar.
All right. Curtis, you got any questions on this one? He might have stepped away.
Yeah, I don't know what time it is. Again.
Oh, yeah, what time is it?
11:13.
Okay. That'll be good. All right. All right, well, we'll go through this because it's, I just never understood
Okay.
the idea of changing the grievance process when there isn't an issue with that, other than the one noted
Well-
fact
In the
that's
old
tied to
contract,
arbitration.
that grievance process was inside ECAT because obviously it was under private management. All other grievance procedures under the county go from the department to the county administrator for step 2. So it's a little bit different. So this is more in line with what happens with other county departments and the other labor contracts.
So by eliminating Article 4, the discipline, what is the procedure for how long you have to investigate a potential action? How long does the county get? I mean, I've seen it all over the place. It's crazy how long, times I've seen 50, 60 days, I've seen a short period of a couple days, I've seen it's all over the place. It's kind of strange.
Well, there's no language in the contract as we proposed that
Well-
would put a cap on the length of an investigation.
It would depend upon the nature of the
Correct.
violation.
And I would hope that you would understand that, like, we try to benefit the employee as much as possible by doing as much due diligence as possible and having it reviewed by as many set of eyes to ensure that there's no bias and that we are getting all the facts. That's why our investigations take so long, because if we look at stuff on the face of it and just make an immediate decision, that would not inure to the employee, and that's not fair. So we do a thorough investigation and collect all evidence, go back and ask questions, get what we need. That's why our process takes so long, and it, like Kristen said, it does vary depending on the nature of the investigation that we're conducting.
Well, I
But
think
because you're
another-
not setting timelines, something could sit on someone's desk for quite a while and then not take
Another,
action.
I think another consideration too is the number of employees that the county employs and the fact that it goes from the department to HR to the county administrator and the legal office, so it takes time.
Again, it could just sit on someone's desk because that person's not moving that off their desk.
Correct, and if that's ever brought to our attention, that's an internal mechanism that we need to control.
Really? So one employee,
That's what I'm telling you.
one employee is in limbo for weeks, wanting to know why you're investigating me. And then, because the process takes so long, I mean, that's the purpose of the process of discipline, is to make sure you do it in a timely manner. You're not, not so you can sit there and just, you use the example of so many eyes to look at it. So I look at it as you're trying to build a huge case against someone, instead of looking at the issue. I mean, I've seen simple little issues happen and they drag out. That it's clear it's a violation of, it's in the labor agreement, it was a violation of something in the labor agreement. Everyone knows the person did it, right? And the person didn't get notified, and for weeks, and it's like, really? I don't understand, but anyways, okay, so I understand the grievance arbitration.
Okay.
All
What
right,
next?
so, which one's next, 7? Oh, wait, you know what, which one was, what was the other article that I was missing? Wasn't there another article, wasn't there safety or something? I'm looking at that one too. Let's see. Didn't we
Wait,
have,
after
no, that's later on,
safety.
that's later on.
That's-
Okay, that's later on. So, union leave, I think we understand that. We understand what you're proposing. Okay, so then we go to 8. 8. So, you're proposing, what's the intent here?
I believe the intent is to capture by reference all of the various leave benefits that the county provides. It's, so instead of having them spread out throughout the collective bargaining agreement in various articles, we just grab them all and incorporate them by reference.
Which are which ones? So, look, for instance, so can you help me out? So you're
Yes.
saying you're eliminating, let me look here.
We don't need jury pay, we don't need bereavement.
Okay, let me write it down.
Yeah.
Jury, bereavement, looks like you took away?
Military, political,
Military.
and what we would do is just simply have the leave
And then
that's
you,
available per county policy.
and then.
And then vacation time and sick leave are specified in this agreement.
So, we're not capturing that, but we're capturing all the sort of other types of
Miscellaneous.
leaves. We're not.
Leave
we're
of
not-
absence.
We're not eliminating the benefit, we're just incorporating by reference.
You changed how the benefit's being paid, because the person would, if I remember correctly, with the county, for bereavement or something like that, you'd use your sick leave.
So you're saying, that's my question. So bereavement, you're saying that would fall under the county employee handbook, which means that when someone wanted to you take bereavement, they have to use their own sick time.
So you are correct that the current county policy does state that. But since we're moving to Kronos, those are some of the things we are looking at, and bereavement leave is one of them that we may change. It's not clear.
Okay.
I'm just giving y'all a heads up. I community promises.
What does it cover as far as family under your handbook? What does it cover? Who gets covered under?
I have it right
I mean, is it more broad than the labor contract, less coverage of family members, or do you know?
It's pretty similar, I don't recall exactly.
All right, it says,
What page is that?
are you asking about what page is in the HR policies and procedures?
Right.
It's section 6.6, and it's page, the document I have is page 10, I'm at 19.
6.6.
So it's to attend the funeral or memorial service in the event of the death of any person residing in the employee's household or any member of the employee's extended family. Extended family shall mean spouse, child, parent, sister, sister-in-law, brother, brother-in-law, niece, nephew, stepfather, stepmother, uncle, aunt, grandparent, or grandchildren of either the employee or the employee's spouse. The employee may be granted at the discretion of the division manager such time for funeral leave as may be reasonably required.
Okay. And all such leave shall be from
Correct.
accrued sick leave. So if
Yeah,
I don't have any
appointed
sick
leave.
leave, do I get bereavement or without leave, I see here, or leave without pay? If sick leave hours are inadequate or additional leave time is needed, the employee may use annual leave or leave without pay. Or if they can't afford it, they'll be forced to miss their family members. That's pretty sad. Okay,
Well, that's what we proposed, and if you want to, if your concern with that is bereavement, then identify that as an
we
issue
will,
for you, okay?
we will. I know, I'm just
I know.
saying that,
Right.
I'm hearing her say that they're thinking about something in the future, but, it would've been great to see that be proposed during labor negotiations.
Well, it's because we haven't developed yet. I was actually just giving you a heads up that, I'm cognizant of the fact that we're asking employees to do their own sick leave and there's not a designated urgent leave. It's something I've noticed and talked about with other employees and other folks. I can't guarantee and we're only doing that.
Okay. All right. So then we go to 10, job postings. So, what I see here is that from previous discussions, we're not assuring any paratransit drivers you'll consider them and they can apply, but it's not assured that they'll be able to come over. Is that correct? And then that would eliminate their ability to be able to carry over their seniority and all that, correct? If they were hired, which is currently the
Would
practice.
it? I don't.
They're not county employees.
Yeah, but currently, when they come over, they carry over all their seniority and everything. For time and service for the purposes of wages and vacation under the MOU.
Tanya, is that the practice?
The paratransit carrying their leave over if they come,
Seniority,
their seniority, I'm sorry.
That's what was identified in the previous CBA.
is that what's
Which
currently?
currently-
how
That's
many?
current.
Was that how we've done the last two folks that come from?
When I
I
got
believe
here,
so.
Amy Murphy.
I believe it is,
Transit.
yes, I believe it is what has transpired.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's happened with the last
Is
groups.
it considered a transfer in that case? But no,
No,
they're.
because they're not,
employees.
no.
Well, yeah, that's true.
so, okay. If that's something that you
Mhm.
want to propose to close that out, that's something we'll listen to.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, we've discussed that many times before, so,
Not
okay.
the seniority piece, but yes, about the trolley operator.
Oh, yes, we
piece.
have. Yes, we
Okay.
have. Oh, maybe you weren't in those negotiations. Okay.
I
Mhm.
think I've been in all of them.
No, you haven't been there since
No.
2018.
It's been a lot.
Oh, I get it
I'm
now.
not
There's
trying
been
to
a
be-
lot.
Trust me, we've spent hours talking about this piece right here, this
Stuff
this
I
article.
made different things.
Okay, so we'll review this, I see a lot of strike-throughs, okay, but, you know, we'll go through it. But, by the way, where are we at with, right now, how many drivers are we down now? Bus operators for full-time? About 17, 18, somewhere in there?
With the current FTE, being set at 70, we are down 16
16
full-time
Mhm.
operators. It takes 50, we have set for 70, but it takes 54 to be able to run our service, so we're down
Right.
4.
They just came out with a national report that, I didn't want to
11
mention.
We-
About there's, currently 15 million vacancy or 15 million, vacancies in the, United States that have been listed, and there's only about 10 million people to fill it. So it's a nationwide problem that they're having a hard time recruiting nationwide in all types of positions. So everyone's feeling those effects of COVID.
All right, so Article 11 and 12 are T8, so Article 13.
13, safety, okay. So the short, I mean, I haven't had time to review this, so let me just ask, because I see the first strike through there. So let me ask this question, it says they were guaranteed 1 hour, is it now being said that, I'm just asking this, are they only being paid the time they're in the safety meeting? Is that the intent, or is it still a minimum of 1 hour? I'm not sure.
I think from our last proposal, and what this states, is that employees are required to attend a meeting on a day, are you talking about on a day off?
Well, a lot of the drivers, I mean, they come in during their off time.
Yeah.
They, you know, they're in their breaks, they're coming in between shifts, they're coming before shifts, after shifts, that would be their off time. So I'm trying to just figure out, what are you
Well,
paying?
I think the status quo language stated that if it was on their day off, they received not less than 2 hours. Is that the current practice?
Outside of the safety meetings, safety meetings typically are 1 hour. And typically, everyone gets paid for that 1 hour for the
Safety and training meetings, I think the status quo language provided for at least 2 hours a day if they came in on a
Yeah.
day off.
Yeah.
Their day off,
Well,
but what
if the
about,
day-
what if it's not their day off?
What if it's in between runs?
What if it's before their shift starts?
Mr. Kimmer, correct me if I'm wrong, when they do the choose up, do they not select what date that they have the safety meetings?
It's not on the
It's
Tuesday.
not anymore, it's not on there anymore?
Mm.
Previously, it was,
Well, the safety meeting is an hour?
typically it's an hour.
Right, okay. Well, they get paid, if they're attending mandatory safety meetings, they get paid for that, that's like time worked.
So if the safety meeting's 40 minutes, that's what they're gonna be paid.
Well,
It says employees who are required to attend a meeting on their day off shall receive not less than 2 hours.
that's.
Got that
To
one.
attend the meeting. Oh.
Yeah, I got that. I'm talking about, most people attend their safety meetings on the day they're working.
All right,
Oh, I see.
well, if you want to propose restoring the 1 hour, we'll consider it.
Okay.
I don't think that's not a big issue.
No.
Nope.
We're not trying to not give somebody 15 minutes of time.
No,
because-
I think the assumption was that either they were on a day off or they were on the clock working, so they would have already been at work.
Yeah, but that's okay, we get it.
Mhm.
If there might be somebody who attends, I don't know, so are we just also assuming the safety meetings were an hour, but I guess they could get.
There's some
interrupted.
months where they may be a little short,
Yeah,
sometimes
okay.
there's no
Well, then-
question.
then we can certainly consider an hour then, on days on which they're scheduled to work.
Because right now, don't they get paid, they get guaranteed an hour, correct?
That's what it says, yeah. Then, and we struck it, what I'm saying is, we don't really have a problem still.
Can I take a second, will you, just right quick, please?
Yeah. I'm gonna show this, Kristen, to you too. Just because. That's okay. Thanks. That's okay. About the, so. Oh, okay, okay. We'll see. All right. All right, we understand safety.
So, we do have a question.
Okay.
You said, then you want to go to your incident review board again, which you proposed in the past.
Yeah.
What you're proposing again.
Yes,
The incident review board,
yes.
okay. Which, by the way, currently we have a accident review board that we've been waiting to have some discussions with for a maintenance employee that has been lingering out there for some time now. We need to get past that. We either discuss it outside of this, or go right to the accident review board, you know, under the existing labor contract, because this has been going on since
Okay,
May of 2020.
all right.
I don't know why it's taken so long, but anyways, okay. So 15, we're looking at.
I was looking,
So are we eliminating the 2-hour guarantee? Is that what you're doing? Is that the intent here? Eliminate 2-hour guarantee?
Where are we at? Sorry.
Section
So
2.
employees, so let me make it simple for you. Often management will, you know, right now when you're
15, 16 drivers down, you're gonna have to ask individuals on their off day to come in and cover the, and they need people to sit in there and cover the board, or be an extra board operator. So you're often asking people to sign up for overtime and come in, and they're guaranteed 2 hours to come in.
I was clarifying what the correct
Okay,
are.
to come in and sit in the break room just in case someone calls out sick or whatever, right? So what I see here is the structure here.
That's the current practice.
So is the intent to eliminate that, so you're not paying them 2 hours?
I'm asking, you, is 2 hours minimum the current practice?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's been, yeah, it's been that practice.
All right, we'll put that down as something that you want restored, and we'll give that,
But I'm just trying to find out what your intent was there, okay?
okay?
I
And
mean-
we're willing to move on that.
16.
So. So you're also saying that if an operator is required to continue on their route, that they're not gonna get time and a half. The intent there is, they won't get time and a half till they hit the 40 now.
That's what it says.
Okay, I just wanna make sure. I'm trying to understand what your intent is.
Yeah, I understand. We're fine.
Then you have types of overtime scheduled. Can you explain this types of overtime to us? What is this again? What is this?
That was status quo.
Is that status quo?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Okay. Status quo? Is that off an MOU maybe? Where is that status quo? Help me out, maybe I'm just missing it. Where is that status quo?
Yeah, fine.
Let me read it, see what it means. Overtime that is announced in advance and in most cases involves an offer by a dispatch office for volunteer sign up or by accepting extra work by all calls. And then you have overtime that is required to complete work that is necessary in responses to, okay, extending emergency situations, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna have to just wait and see what you have in another article here regarding this that I'm curious about. It's tied to people signing up for overtime. Okay, so let's go to 18.
Okay.
PTO,
Paid time off and annual leave apply to other county employees, but since this unit uses vacation time, it's just different terminology. It's just to clarify that vacation time is not in addition to what other employees would accrue as PTO or annual leave.
okay, so we're not eligible for PTO or annual leave, I got that.
Because you get vacation time, other county employees do not get vacation time.
So we're not similar than the other bargaining units when it comes to vacation time. So, I mean, you wanted to mirror the contracts, I'm just curious. So we wouldn't be,
Because they
we wouldn't
accrue,
be,
you accrue in weeks. That's different, you're correct, and because that is the practice and
Yes.
that's how the department handles that. and you have a separate choose up on that basis, if you'd like, we can consider changing it and making it consistent with all the other county employees.
So then other employees, then the ECAT employees would be consistent in taking it in 2-hour increments, vacation time? Isn't that, I'm not sure, is that what it is under the existing
No,
employee handbook? How can they put in for annual leave or use annual leave?
You know, in what increments?
Yeah, increment, isn't it like 2 hours or something like that?
I think it's
Quarter hour.
correct, it's a quarter hour, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
in a quarter, so they could, they can utilize it quarter hour.
Yes.
For annual leave and PTO.
So transit workers, if they got that, okay. And it requires approval, or how do they just utilize it, or how do they get
I mean,
it?
it requires, it's just a request to the direct supervisor, and the supervisor, says yea or nay.
Yeah, or nay?
I mean, that's how it operates anyway.
Okay. Okay, I understand. So, you're eliminating the 6, no, you're not eliminating 6 weeks. What is this section to? A total of 400 hours of vacation time is the maximum that will carry over from 1 year to the next.
Right, and that's
Okay.
consistent with what other employees can carry over in terms of their annual leave or their PTO.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't think we ever carry any over, do we?
Well,
No.
that shouldn't be an
Okay.
issue.
Okay, I understand, I'm just trying to understand what
So
you
you
know,
could-
why that's in the contract when it doesn't apply to us, but that's okay.
That's fine.
So some employees actually don't carry their leave.
But if we went to the other system, then it could be the same carrying it over.
I don't think from an operational perspective, it would be feasible to have bus drivers potentially taking 15 minutes or 3 hours of leave when they have a 10-hour run.
But,
But I don't know, that's something that, you know,
But it wasn't something that we thought was being asked for, but that's
I
okay.
didn't know that that was.
bus operators,
Bus operators.
not bus operators, bus operators.
I'm sorry.
We looked at it like that, operators. Okay, and I got the 7. Is that similar to the county workers where you say employees must work a minimum of 75% of the radius time work scheduled during the qualifying year in order to be eligible for vacation time? Is that,
That was
is that
the-
equivalent
That was in
to
the-
other?
That's status quo
That was in the
language.
previous one.
That's status quo language, but is it equivalent to what county workers, firefighters, all them, they all have to work 75%?
They have to do it per pay period. They have to actually physically work whatever their required shift is per pay period, or they do not get their full accrual.
Right.
So what is,
For like an office employee, it's an 80-hour pay period, and if you have leave without pay during that time, then your accrual is adjusted by your leave without pay.
okay, you said office person, is that a bargaining unit employee? or-
No, I was just giving you an example.
Same
Your
thing with
bargaining,
fire,
the
same with
same thing
EMS.
applies to your bargaining unit employees, but some of them work different shifts. So like in fire's case, they work like 106 hours, so theirs is adjusted accordingly.
They work 24-hour shifts, but we got some, you know, EMS works 12, corrections 10, I mean, all kinds of different shifts. So much fun.
So there's a
Okay.
prorate according to the hours worked per employee.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand what your language is, because it's kind of like mixed, that's what's catching my attention. It's, you know, some of it is tied, it's, you know, I hear the consistency with the county, the other contracts, but then there's other language that's been left in.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the point of the story. We understand that you all are not, that are a little bit different. And so we make provisions for that in all of our CBAs, but we try to keep it as consistent as possible with county standard. But,
Okay. So going forward though, union business will not be recognized as earned time towards vacation. Is that correct? That's what it says here, is jump through it? Or is there some other place that I'm gonna find? Is that in, under union business where you're not being punished because you're a union official? that anywhere else? I'm just asking
I
you.
don't think so.
Or do you get punished to conduct union business?
No, you don't get punished, but
Well, you do if you lose vacation time to be a union official. So Ms. Wiggins here would be suffering if she was, or Jim Stanton would be suffering because they stepped up to be.
If you're being paid with paid union leave, then I don't believe that would count against your accrual time.
The paid
You're
union
being
leave.
paid on
Paid by
paid
the
union
union leave, meaning the 120 hours.
Union leave article, that's
15
paid
days.
union leave.
So for 12.
You're,
okay.
you're considered on the clock essentially.
But if they're not on the clock, then they would be, they would,
Then that's leave without pay.
so potentially they'd be hurting their vacation time, okay.
Okay, we ready to move on?
I'm getting there in the courtroom. A lot of stuff to look at here. What is it? Okay. Okay, vacation, choose it. Vacation dates available in seniority order. So if the employee doesn't have 1 week of vacation, it's a new employee, they have accrued days, they wouldn't be able to select those days, they would just, you would make them use it whenever, right? Is that what you're saying?
ask that question again.
So I see here under section 5, it says that to be eligible to participate in a vacation bump down, the operator must have a minimum 1 week of vacation. Okay, I got it, because you want them to use the full week. Okay.
But if they do not have a full week, if they've been prorated through the year and they've only got 3 days, can they take the 3 days whenever they want to, since they don't have a full consecutive week?
That works.
Okay.
Oh, so now are we striking through the ability of an operator to, with years of service, being able to use a week in individual days? Is that what you're doing now?
Mhm.
What are you looking at? What-
Which one?
So, go to section, I think it's section 11. So, it's hard to follow because there's so much here, but currently, employees that have 5, is it 5? Four weeks or more, 4, 5, or 6 weeks, they're able to, during the vacation bid, utilize one of those weeks as individual days to be, broken up throughout the year. And they won't be forced to pick all those as full 5, 6 weeks.
In other words, if an individual's got 5 weeks of vacation, he picks 4 on the choose up, and he has a week left over that he can break down into individual days, or like a floating holiday.
That's something that you want us to consider adding back?
Yeah, I'm open to that conversation.
Okay.
But your intent was to take it away? Is that
No,
what-
I don't think it was necessarily to prohibit that by striking the language in the contract.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, we can put it back in.
so holidays. So we have modified. I'm trying to look through here, and I'm not gonna, I'm just seeing this, so strike through of employee's birthday, is that something that you're trying to eliminate, or will I find it somewhere else here?
No, you will not find it somewhere else.
You will not, so you're eliminating employee birthday, is that correct?
It is struck, the language is stricken.
Okay, is that based on the fact that it maybe is not given to other county employees?
I believe so.
Okay,
There are still floating holidays, vacation time, and sick leave approval that are specified.
okay, I'm gonna look through this. Okay, so there's still floating holidays, because I see all that language is struck through. So where did you move it down to another spot here for the floating holidays and all that?
Yeah, it's still in section one.
It's
Which
still
section
there.
is it?
Section one.
Section
Article
one?
19,
Yeah.
section one, floating holiday.
Where do you see that, Jim? Show me where's the, I see modified, I see, oh, up here.
Yeah.
Modified service and floating holiday. Is it just one floating holiday, or
It
is
says
it?
floating holidays.
In the middle of page 19.
I see modified service holiday and floating holiday.
Full-time employees with less than 1 year of employment will be eligible for one floating holiday after 4 months of employment. The employee will be eligible for a second floating holiday after completing 8 months of employment or until January 1 of the following year. Thereafter, the employee will be eligible for 2 floating holidays per calendar year.
Okay,
So it's 3 floating holidays a year.
so the intent of this is to, were there any changes to, let's see, any changes to how many holidays they get? Or is it just what? 'Cause I see some strike-throughs here, I'm just trying to, no, let me see. Do they still get the holidays that we were getting, or are you proposing something different?
Mm-hmm.
They still get New Year's Day. They still get Martin Luther King. Okay, birthday, I see. But do they still get, what's next, Memorial Day? Do they still get Memorial Day?
Yeah, it's in the modified
Okay.
service holidays.
Like modified, okay. And I'm just trying to locate, Mike.
No.
And then July 4th, is that up above, or is that
Yeah, it's
modified?
Independence Day, we just changed the name.
Oh, you changed the name, okay. So then you have, what's next, let's see. What's next, Labor Day?
Mm-hmm.
Labor Day.
Yeah,
Why would we have a holiday called Labor Day?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do get your birthday also, why not, you get Labor Day off.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Labor Day, then you have Veterans Day.
Boss's Day.
Okay, and then modified,
Boss's
okay.
Day
So
also.
it seems like they're all there except for floating.
Right.
I'm not floating, yeah.
No.
Birthday. Birthday's the only one, looks like you
Yep.
eliminated birthday.
Yep,
Okay.
that's right.
Is there no more pre-selecting floating holidays? Is that what that means?
Mm-hmm.
There's no more pre-selecting? Is that the intent? No more being able to preset, select a floating holiday?
Again, the fact that the language is stricken does not necessarily mean that it's now prohibited.
In reverse, it means, it doesn't mean it's gonna be allowed either. So, I don't know. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right, so then we have, are we still doing the options? Let me look at the options here. Options, receive holiday pay and not work. Receive holiday pay, work at overtime. Work on a holiday pay, overtime rate, and lieu of holiday pay.
Change.
Yeah, it's been changed, I see. Okay, I understand what you've done there, okay? Full-time. I'm a little confused, is this all done based on seniority, or is this gonna be just sort of a free-for-all? I'm a little confused.
What are you talking about?
So, when there's a modified holiday, we usually base scheduling by, having a modified holiday choose-up, which is based on seniority. Is that still?
It's still page
It's in
20.
there.
It's,
Page 20 at the very
section
bottom.
5.
Okay,
So
so.
you look at page 20, your section 5 at the very bottom. It says it.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's see that too. That's, read that. That's why he has me on. 26.
Wow. Mm. So you-
So Curtis has been off for a few minutes, I won't tell you why, but it's pretty serious. So he'll be back on here in a minute, he says, so.
Okay.
He'll announce when he comes back on, Ooh. All right, so we'll move to 20,
Okay.
which I think, aren't we close to,
Yeah, we
close
were
on that?
close on that one, really
Wasn't that
close
one
on
of them that we were
That
so
was,
close?
that was one of them we were going hand,
Hit that.
was,
What do I do with it now? What are those proposals, Jake?
like,
Move them?
yeah, I got it right here.
You got yours? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, they're right there.
Yeah, here's 17, here's 26, and here's 20.
So did you change that? Let me see if they changed the language. Did they change it?
Wait a minute.
Wait a second, now it's just a short paragraph. It's not what it was before.
So isn't it in the policy manual that each union has a representative on the benefits committee? So that's in the county policy, and the ECAT provides the felonious assault bond, and this was language that has been in every proposal.
When was the last employee benefit meeting? Because
I have absolutely no idea.
we haven't been on one since the previous HR director. How long have you been here? You been here over a year? So you guys don't handle, you don't have one annually?
This was a precarious year, being that we had COVID and hurricanes to correctly
Okay. I'd have to look to see what that says. I want to be assured it says that we are allowed somebody out there. What about the felonious assault bond?
That's provided, it always has been, I don't have any issue with putting it in contract.
Yeah.
It's
We're required to
not
have
going
it
be-
anyway.
Yeah, it's required, it's certainly not gonna be eliminated.
So the only issue we had last time was that it was, you had listed bus operators, we wanted transit workers.
Yeah.
That was the only
And
issue that was on there.
And you said you were gonna get back with us on that because you couldn't give us an answer to that. And that's why we brought it back out.
You recall that?
No, I'll put it back in.
Our proposal had transit workers, you guys had bus operator.
Okay,
Okay?
so that's gonna require maybe a minute of research, so let me go on.
Okay.
Well, that's what's, I believe in the current one, we can verify with, risk management, but,
Okay, look at that. Let's
Oh,
do
I
that.
see. Transit workers, yeah.
Mhm.
You proposed that.
Okay, so then 21. Okay, this is where we're, ooh, sick leave, okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna take time for us to go through this one. I mean, just to kind of match it up, let's see. Okay, so you wanna eliminate the 2 consecutive day absences without documentation? Is that what you're trying to do? 3 or more consecutive, it must be supported by. Confused there, okay.
So if I'm reading correctly, if you take 2 days of sick leave from what you've got wrote down here, you may or may not have to have a doctor's excuse. If you don't schedule it, what is it, 24 hours ahead of time? And you call out sick because you don't know when you're gonna be sick, then you may or may not need a doctor's excuse?
The county reserves the right to require a doctor's certificate or other documentation supporting any request for sick leave.
Okay. You realize how hard it is to go to the doctor and get him the back dates that you're telling him you were sick? So if you call out, you might as well go and get one. That makes no sense at all.
It doesn't say that it will be required, it says the county reserves the right.
I understand that. But if you don't get it, and then the county goes, oh, I think I need one this time, and you try to go to your family doctor or an emergency room and try to get an excuse to where he didn't see you for those 2 days, he's not gonna give you an excuse.
I understand your concern.
Okay, we'll look at 21.
Okay.
I think 22 is TA.
22 is TA, yes. 23
With
TA.
TA.
is TA, right?
Yeah.
Yes. 24 attendance, let me see if you've got 24. Is that one you tried to eliminate or what? Let me see, no, you have it here.
No, we had,
Okay,
tried to
so let me see.
eliminate.
This one's gonna take time to look at because it's gotta match it up. There's so many strike throughs and then there's so many new underlines, it's hard to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't understand how.
So what's the, what's the whole intent of the attendance policy, or your concerns there of the attendance policy? What are you trying to achieve here? Because this is obviously an article that the union would love to have good discussions with you about, because we understand, but, you know, obviously when you're down so many operators, you got problems there, you know, because you're asking people to work a lot of overtime and people are getting burned out. But with that being said, what is the intent, what is the overall attendance structure you're trying to achieve?
Structure?
Uh,
Operate, well, the employees are expected to report to work. And if you are absent without authorized leave, it will be without pay and may result in disciplinary action. If you're absent for 3 or more days, consecutive days, without authorized leave, then it's considered job abandonment.
So,
Consistent with county policy.
I think the report time section is status quo language. And time occurrences, some of that is status quo language.
so this is consistent with your other county contracts? Is that what it is?
No, I don't believe that attendance is
Policy.
specifically
3 days,
addressed in
maybe.
the other labor contracts.
So do the other contracts have different types of attendance than
No.
the county policy?
No, I don't think so.
No.
So, so you're saying if someone calls out over and they hit that 3rd day and they don't provide a doctor slip, that's job abandonment?
No.
No, what are you saying?
If they're like a no-show.
No call, no
Yes,
show.
No call, no show.
Meaning they never called?
Meaning there's no contact with us.
There's no authorized leave, then it's job abandonment.
So help me understand your process. So if someone just calls in the morning and says, listen, I can't come in today to drive the bus, what's the next step? What is happening next? What do you expect out of it? Or what are you doing?
Well, I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
I have to compare it to what we have now. I'm trying to understand what your intent is. At some point, I'll have to explain it to workers, so I need to make sure I understand.
I think you also have to refer back to the sick leave provision.
Okay? All right. I guess we'll have to read through it. We're not gonna get any answers. Huh? What? I don't know. Without having to read through these and trying to figure out what they're, I wish they would just tell us. What is your intent? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
You know, what are you trying to say? That's all I'm trying to ask is what, it shouldn't be a hidden agenda, it should be a
It's not
conversation.
We're not hiding anything, it's on paper.
Well,
I just don't know what
what
your
we're
questions
asking,
are.
what the question would be is, with our status quo, what we have now, we have occurrences. Okay? And if you get so many occurrences by calling out sick or calling here.
Excused or unexcused, there's a combination.
There's a combination. Then you get a letter telling you're getting close to being terminated and so on and so forth, and then all of a sudden after 10, you're terminated. Here, there's no guideline.
Or at least we can't figure it out yet.
So how many times can I call in sick?
That would probably depend upon the circumstances.
Okay.
See that?
See, that's what we don't understand.
How do I
'cause-
explain that to workers? I don't understand.
Yeah,
How do I explain
but how do I explain to somebody, hey, look, you've called in 5 times sick.
There's no set number.
And then this other person called in 6, but this other person got disciplined because of his 6, but the 5 person didn't get disciplined.
It would depend upon the circumstances. Did you have pneumonia and you were legitimately sick and there's documentation? Or did you disappear and go to Las Vegas? I mean, there's a difference.
Well, if I went to Las Vegas, you wouldn't know.
That's right.
You'd only know if I get big.
You'd
right?
only,
You see
you'd
my
know,
point?
only know if I put it on Facebook, and then I'd be screwing
No,
myself.
they only know if you hit big. If you hit big, then they would say,
And then you wouldn't need to come back.
You might not
But-
come back.
But see,
I'm
that's,
still-
that's what we're trying to figure out, because it's different from what we've had. So, like Mike's said, we gotta be able to explain this stuff.
And I'm not comfortable, I guess I'll keep reading it and try to figure it out, but I was hoping you could help me because, you know, I have many times approached management and said, let's have discussions about attendance. If you're concerned, we're as concerned about attendance as you are, and I have expressed that, but not once have I been able to sit down with management and have a discussion about how we can make it better and how we can make this more efficient. That, I've been told we gotta do that in negotiations. I want that, but
We've had multiple conversations independently in other meetings. I know Mr. Kimbrough's had conversations. I know over at least the past 2 years of concerns about attendance, so.
that's not what I'm saying. We can have a concern about attendance, about an individual has 7 occurrences, or an individual has 6 occurrences, or whatever. I get that. I'm saying, what is the intent? What are you trying to achieve? How do we get there? Did you even look at our proposal? Did you even look at our proposal?
Sure.
What did you think of it? We seem to work off your proposal, but never ever look at ours and have a discussion about ours and your thoughts on it. I thought we made significant movement in our attendance policy, to try to work with you, to try to get to a point where we have a discussion. I mean, I literally worked with these 2 individuals and worked hard to come away with some language that I know that my membership is gonna go, what the did you just do, union, to us, right? But I understand that attendance is an issue. And I want to work with management to find a way to find some kind of common ground that will also not be so stringent that you're gonna be losing people. And she just announced that, you know, nationally, there's no one being able to be hired because there's a hiring problem. You're gonna lose individuals. Let's all face the facts here. We're sitting here, we know there's an attendance issue. Why aren't we working to create a policy that works? Or, you know.
We'll pull what you gave us last time and take another look at it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
You wanna take a lunch break?
Is it 12? Yes. I think we should probably stop and then we'll come back and go through the rest. We'll try to continue to look through these during the lunch break. I want to check on Curtis to find out what's going on.
Okay.
It's something involving a family member and I was really concerned when I read what I read. So,
Is it okay to leave everything?
Yeah.
well, we'll leave our regular stuff, but we'll take this with us to
Yeah.
continue to read through it. Maybe that will speed up the process when we come back to
So-
discuss, get clarification and go
Yeah,
from
yeah,
there.
What
I
time
think we've
should
got
we-
through a lot of,
What time, an hour, how are we doing for lunch?
let's make it as short a period of time as possible to go into.
Yeah, let's come back at 1:30?
What time is it now?
Let's say 1.
12:15?
Let's say 1.
Yeah,
One?
let's say 1.
Okay. It's gonna be, see the difference, I don't know where you guys order in or what, but we're gonna have to drive somewhere, that's the only difference.
Well, everyone's gonna drive somewhere, so.
Oh,
But,
because,
but we're just gonna drive through, we're not gonna, listen, you can eat in front of me, I don't care.
okay. Very good. Let's see, is this yours? That's yours?
Yes, that's mine.
I will go get something for us. What's local? I guess it's fast food local, right? It's not fast food. There's no place.
Arby's, Hardee's, all around it, Derby, and
Yeah.
And I need a moment, so I'm gonna say 1:15, because I need to talk to Curtis. You know what I'm saying? I gotta have a moment to talk to him too, so.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn it.
It happens a lot to negotiations.
I guess I'll.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
Gotta find my keys. Huh?
I think she's picked it out.
I'm trying to find my keys.
There's-
I just threw them in my purse.
Parties, listen, John, I don't. Look, Mr. Hall, but I just, look, after my daughter grew up, I was so used to, Happy Meals that I just, when she grew up, I never.
I will not be joining y'all this afternoon, so I'll get on Teams for the first hour from
Okay.
1 to 2, but then I'll be.
Okay, well, you have a good weekend.
Yes.
Swim meet in Biloxi, so we gotta drive over there.
Well, y'all be safe.
Thank you, see y'all
Yes.
next time.
Yes.
Now, my husband.
Tell me what you want from Whataburger, and I'll go drive through.
Just, for me, just number one.
Okay.
Okay.
Diet Coke,
Number one with the Coke,
yeah, Diet Coke.
Diet Coke.
No, I'm gonna be there, so that's why I need you to can you call me when you're about, 30 minutes out? That would be great, and I will meet you there.
Don, you want something from Whataburger?
Yeah, just there
Okay.
have a, I think it's like a chicken
Like chicken fingers?
or something, yeah. And whatever the. You can head back over, you can, is Brian still over there?
I just wanted to just see him before you left, just to
Okay.
make sure that, see if he had anything else. that he
It
needed
probably is.
Of me
Thank you.
before he left. Close that out.
We're live.
All right, great.
Thank you.
I think we're going to rewrite 25 anyway.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just make this comment about 25. So at one point, we discussed sitting in the room and going over it and doing outside, just having an open discussion. We met, I don't know if, I think Tanya was in that meeting, I'm not sure with that one, it's been so long. But we met and we discussed emergency working groups. Yeah, you were, weren't you, Tanya?
Yes.
You and Mr. Kimbrough and Jenna, she was by phone,
Jenna,
correct?
yes.
So I was a little disappointed we didn't finish going, we expressed our concerns and we went, we went through and I thought we had a lively, good discussion. And I thought we were gonna finish it, but we never came back to finish it. So I was, I don't know why we couldn't have done that because the conversation we had that outside of the negotiations was productive and it was understanding both sides and the concerns that we were facing and how we could, because.
Did you have something done?
No, well, we had verbal communications and then I thought we were gonna draft a paper.
I think, Jen was gonna kind of summarize what we kind of all discussed while we were in there.
Well, why doesn't somebody write something down?
It's been so long, yeah, it's been a while since we met, but,
Well,
I just don't want
take a
to,
stab at it.
I just want you to know that there's been a long history of dealing with emergency situations, not just the pandemic, but hurricanes. And this language wasn't created to do anything other than to make things run smooth. And in the last hurricane, during Hurricane Sally, the union was very active in assisting management through this. And in fact, I wish Mr. Kimbrough was still in the room. He relied immensely on me to communicate to employees, to get employees in after the hurricane went through.
He did.
And,
Yeah, because I was at EOC and you and him were working very closely together to try to get folks to come in on such a short notice to make sure that we had folks that were still able
Right.
to assist in the evacuation. Yes.
so I just don't understand why we can't, this one little paragraph that's been put together, I mean, I think that, I would hope that that you said you're gonna go rewrite this, so I hope that you go back and look at the original language that was in the contract and in the MOU and try to figure out if there's a way to address this, to make it easier.
Well, if you've had a meeting on this and we've come to some conclusions about it, then whoever has the best knowledge of where that landed should write it down.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there were conclusions, I would say there was lively discussion
Good.
And
Yeah.
discussion that,
And I hate that Janice not here, but one of the things that I believe since then, there's been conversations about, far as after Hurricane Sally, of designations within the county about emergency critical, emergency essential, some things that I know HR is working on. So I can't speak to that, but I know that that may be where some of that kind of landed,
Okay.
but I'm,
Well,
you
and
know.
that would fall under county policy and wouldn't need to be memorialized in the labor agreement. So,
Well, the one thing that just a conversation, and Mike, I think just from what I remember, the county's current, because we do it a little bit differently where we have a choose up. Other departments have just a designation. We have a emergency choose up. So that once an emergency is declared, we know specifically where people are supposed to be.
All right, well, that's all good, but, so Kristen and I should be writing that up since there's a process already.
well, and it may or may not need to be memorialized in labor agreement, so we can address that later.
All right. Okay,
27 was T8.
27 was TA.
well, you're skipping you're skipping an article that I need to ask you about.
Okay,
26,
right.
seniority. Now, what did they say, they want to, what, with 26, eliminate it?
Eliminate.
Yep.
I'm like, why would you want to eliminate an article of seniority? Why would you want to take that out of the contract? I'm a little confused.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Seniority is, whoever eliminated it or wanted to eliminate it, obviously doesn't understand transit. Doesn't understand the history of transit labor contracts. Seniority is the most significant thing in a transit contract, and it's in all contracts. I don't understand.
Nikki, you're not muted.
Yeah. I'm just asking, what's the intent of eliminating seniority in the language that creates seniority in a labor contract for transit workers? I have to ask this question. I can't just let this go by without asking this. I mean, who wants that? And what's the significance of eliminating seniority? Unless you're trying to hurt the workforce based on years of service, and you want to just praise those at the bottom of the seniority that have the least amount of service by giving them something, I don't know what, maybe, I don't know what your intent is, but I'm wondering why you would eliminate this.
I don't think we took seniority as a consideration out of the collective bargaining agreement. We just took it out of how, that we didn't think it needed to be defined in a separate article.
Right.
We think people know where they are in terms of seniority.
Yeah,
So when you put it in-
That's self-explanatory. Actually, the word seniority is used throughout the document.
Yeah, but we want an article in the contract, because we don't want you to take it as only seniority is defined for that one article when it mentions seniority, or another, because seniority is significant in everything we do on a transit property. It's just about,
Okay, well, we certainly consider putting it back in.
okay, because it's not, I don't see where the abuse, let me just say this, there's some history behind the seniority language too that I think you need to know. We actually had a proposal that we were gonna give you on that, but, when you,
Maybe you could give it to us.
okay, we'll look to do that here in a minute, maybe. Time and service is seniority. We were defining what is time and service, because we just want to clarify that, it used to be company seniority, we get it, you don't want to use company seniority.
Right.
But we want it to be understood that we're not punishing, I don't want it to come across later that you're gonna take the date of when the county took over and say that's when everyone's seniority is. You're not doing that now, and I don't think that's your intent.
It isn't.
But we need to make sure that it's understood that some people like Willie Carter have been here for 47 years,
Okay.
right? And
That's certainly your intent.
and then departmental seniority, obviously, there's a reason we have that in there for the purposes of picking schedules.
Okay.
And then dual seniority, that became a huge issue at one point during the transit life, where we had individuals in the case that involves this one, that created that language, which we found out later was established in many other transit contracts, is that we had a bus operator, Mr. McIntyre, who had back injuries because he had been driving and, dealing with that for years, and ended up switching to customer service. Then during the years he was in customer service, he was able to, Andrews Institute, he was able to get some surgery done that fixed his issue where he could go back, and he came back to driving. So that language was created for dual seniority, so it allowed him to go right back to the top where he was at number 2, with a loss of 3 years for the purposes of bidding for being a bus operator, but not losing his years of service for the purposes of vacation and pay. Okay, so I heard you say you'll revisit it. Thank you for that. So now, reduction, that's TA. Part-time. Part-time. So, part-timers have been around a while now, and I've seen your language here now with part-timers. I think, and you struggle to get part-timers just as much as you're now struggling to get full-timers. The language that's in the contract is, I see you want to take out, it looks like, the 10 part-timers. We want to ensure the most efficient. I can read it. So you've kind of left it open where you can choose how many part-timers you want to hire. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what it's.
And that becomes problematic for us because now, we don't want a bargaining unit full of a bunch of part-timers that have no benefits. And, I know that might be good for you to have that, but it's not good for the union and we believe for the entire system. Part-timers, one of the things I hear directly from the part-timers right now, why should I, they indicate, except for one part-timer is not mentioned anything because I think that part-timer has another intent to do another profession in the near future. But from the other part-timers, I've heard, I don't have any benefits, I don't have anything, I don't have anything. But I am being worked almost 30 hours a week, but I can't move on and do other things, and they're all basically waiting to move up right now to become full-time bus operators. They're waiting for the transit system to make that move and move them up. I don't know why we haven't done it yet, other than the idea is because you can't fulfill the UWF contract right now, so that's why you haven't moved them, I guess. But if you see our proposal, do you remember our proposal?
Well, I do, but I don't.
Asking for some benefits, to increase benefits for them. And we still want to limit the number of part-timers because that's a concern. I don't want it to end up, being more part-timers than full-timers. That was never the intent of the transit system. And I don't see transit systems running successfully unless you have sufficient full-timers. So we would ask you to go back and look at ours as well, revisit ours. We think that giving them some benefits would be productive in even helping you to hire some people. That's how we feel. So 29 is already TA'd. 30 is TA'd. 31. So I need to get some understanding. So the purpose of, well, first of all, under your proposal, looking compared to ours, I know you don't have ours in front of you, so I'll just go ahead and, so section 2, you struck through not wanting, well, first of all, section 1, regularly scheduled weekday jobs, Saturday and Sunday jobs, you struck through that language, but I understand, I think that was kind of touched on. Section 2, you're striking through the ability for the union to examine the jobs and the schedules, or we call it the choose up, right? Mm-hmm. In advance. So my question to you, or my comment to you, is that historically, management has struggled immensely and made many mistakes in doing choose ups. And without communicating with the union and allowing us the opportunity to review it and give our input, to sign off on it, to agree to it? I mean,
If
have
you
we
go-
held up the choose up?
I'm sorry, if you go to page 35 at the top, it says, upon request, a designated union official will be permitted to review the choose-up list and seniority list prior to posting.
Review.
Yeah, review.
So. Let me look at that. Upon it doesn't,
Second one.
prior to posting.
Does that address your concern?
Well, I mean, it's obviously different than we, it's fine, okay, then we move on then.
Okay.
Section 1 of yours, you just wanna add that language in, is that what you're doing, which is the, DOT requirements for the state of
That was
Florida?
pulled from another article because it wasn't, it didn't appear to be in the correct place. I think it was in 30, where was that? Didn't we just move that language?
What we,
I believe we did.
All right, but, I mean, I'm not so sure we'll be, concerned with that being in the contract, I don't think that's a concern, okay?
Pretty
So-
sure it was just moved from another location.
Okay. Section 2, definitions of general choose-up. What's the intent here now for the choose-ups? I'd like to hear from management, what is your intent regarding doing choose-ups going forward?
What's the question, Mr. Larry? I was attempting to read it. Definition says choose up. A general listing of regular run assignments, extra board positions, and days off that is posted for bidding once every 4 months and at such other times as the county deemed necessary due to significant change in scheduling or service requirements.
For general choose-up?
Yeah, for
So
general
I just
choose-up.
wanted to add, this is the same proposal that we've provided before, and I think we have discussed a lot of these questions.
Did you look at our counter? I'm just curious, did you, you
Yes.
guys, you did look at our counter?
Mm.
What are your issues with our counters? We're answering, but I'm just curious, what did you think of our counters regarding Article 31?
This is our proposal, and that's what we're discussing right now.
What is your
I don't
issues
have
with
your
Article
counter-
31?
I don't have your counter here to look at it and answer that question, and I don't recall, but we're here to discuss this.
I'll ask the management team, what was your concern with Article 31, since this is just an operational thing? I mean, did you look at our proposal and go through it and get an idea? I thought we kind of worked through that for the choose-ups, and I'm just curious why, so you're striking through and you're signing off days. Signing off days, right? I know that's been done since the pandemic started, but it wasn't that way prior to the pandemic. Is that, so now that you've had it under the pandemic, are you trying to keep it permanent? Is that what your goal is, Ms. Ellis? Mr. Kimbrough?
So I've never, again, before the pandemic, I wasn't here, so I can't speak to how it was done prior to the pandemic. When I see signed off days, I just wanna know what's the actual question, because I guess that's the part that I'm not understanding.
In the bids prior to the pandemic, I mean, I have copies of all of them. Not with me, but I have them all. People were able to pick their off days. Now, the only ones that had assigned off days was the agreed individuals that had 4/10s. But any ones that had 5/8s, they were able to, Ms. Ellis knows this, she was there before. They were able to, right, Elaine, pick their off days.
yes.
When you had a schedule of a 5/8. Only the union had agreed that anyone had 4/10s would have assigned, because they were getting 3 days off. Those individuals were basically getting a day off during the week and then the weekend off.
So I guess my question would be then, so is the issue just the selection of off days?
That
It's
is-
just the weekends, it's just pretty much just
The
Friday,
weekends,
Saturday.
yeah, yes.
Friday, Saturday, and Monday is like the issue.
Well,
And
if I could be
I swear
straightforward.
we discussed
If
this
I could be
before.
straightforward with you.
yeah,
You and I have had these discussions, so I think it's fair that everyone else hears this. Since Mr. Barnes has been doing the choose-up, he has been, from the opinion of the union, has been manipulating the schedule, using the off days to punish senior individuals, senior drivers. So senior drivers, some of the drivers, not all of them, but those that are, when I say senior, you got the top individuals, and then you got the next layer of senior drivers, right? Those are the ones that I'm hearing from that said that the CHUSUP has been manipulated. I am now being, Elaine will tell you, they're having to work schedules that they've never had to work schedules before. And they're losing the off, and the off days is the reason. They have to make a choice. They have to either get the off days they want, or be forced to get a good schedule and then work days that they don't like.
So I want for the record though, when you say to get a good schedule, are you talking about the actual route runs? The route runs will actually change with the actual software, because right now, currently, with the way that the routes and runs are scheduled, is not efficient. I know this is a conversation you and I've had before.
Right.
So the normal Route 52 right now, that can actually change when we get something that actually is able to be a benefit to show us that, okay, Route 45 shouldn't be as long as it currently is. Maybe that needs to change. Like, if we, and I've said this because, again, Ms. Larry, you know how I'm passionate, just as passionate as you are about us becoming better, right? If we continue to hinder ourselves the way that we've been doing it, we're never gonna grow as a transit agency. We won't be able to provide the service.
I agree. I 100% agree with you on that, but I do think that if we put language in the contract here that we don't discuss out and we understand what the true intent is, then I'm not doing it justice by the workforce, because unfortunately, I have to live off what I've seen and what I've watched happen. I can't wait for you to get the software, okay? I can't wait.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you and I both say that, or at least agree on this? As of right now, currently, in this day and time right now, there has been some changes in regards to the way that things have been managed in regards to the operational aspect of it all. There's more communication between yourself and I haven't just allowed someone to just impose anything on any of the workforce. That I've done my best to try to make sure that it's fair and impartial across the board, and I want to continue to work with it. I don't, and you notice I don't need it to be written down on everything to be written down in black and white on this for me and you to be able to work together. I don't feel like I need that, and I know you've expressed to me that the reason, I may not be around. And so, but I promise you that I'll do my best to make sure that everything don't have to be written down. Even with the off days right now, even during the pandemic, we were able to work something out, right? Correct, to go through the CHUSUP to make sure that, hey, that if Mr. Barnes just imposing something, which I told you, I don't feel like he's done. He's been attempting to meet service and without having any other things that we need. We're short on drivers, short on staff. We had to modify all of our services. I don't think that he intentionally did anything to harm employees, but when you brought that to my attention, I did my best to make sure that we are able to, find some form of median place or a meeting place amongst the union and management, just so that we can provide the service to the citizens. That's all I want, is just a service for the citizens, and I know that's what you want too. So let's work together, let's do it.
I know, but again, language in the contract's important. I know the county would rather not have language in there, but from the perspective of this workforce, transit workers, language in the contract, especially this kind of language, operational, is important, because you said it earlier, which is true, you may not be there. And I have seen so many operation managers come and go. They interpret language different. General managers, transit directors, whatever you want to call them, I see them come and go. But if it's not in black and white.
What is your question about this proposal? Are you asking whether there are days off included in the CHUSUP? Because it's right here. It's in the definition of general CHUSUP. It includes regular run assignments, extra board positions, and days off.
You're assigning the days off in the bid.
I don't know if
That's
what
this says.
And days off?
That's what,
Or
when you
does that
read
mean
this.
that it's part of the CHUSUP, that they get to pick their days off? I don't know.
So what it means is the assignment of the runs,
Run
they'll
comes
actually
with days
have,
off,
it'll
assigned days off.
contain the days off.
But they get to pick their
They'll
assignment.
get to choose what assignment. that
But
they
then the
choose.
10-hour run assignments include assigned off days, which are not subject to the CHUSUP. That's in here too.
Yes, ma'am.
So I took that to mean
Yes, ma'am.
You pick
Yes.
you pick your job assignment. And of course, that has a schedule. Each run has a certain schedule. So that would then, I guess,
Like,
mean,
so let me ask this question. Are we, let me make it more simple then. Are we sticking with only 4/10s would have the assigned days off, not the 5/8s? Or is your intent, because I'm worried, I'm asking these questions because during the pandemic, and for a year now, you've been assigning off days for all the jobs. So I'm asking, are we, once this pandemic crisis is over, are we going back to employees will be able to pick the off days for 5/8s?
Ms. Lowry, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't see
See, that's
where,
we'll
I don't see where that'll be
back where we
efficient. That wasn't efficient like that. That wasn't efficient. That's not efficient. Like, doing
difficult
it
to
that way to
schedule.
where I have to adjust all of the runs, to be able to meet off days. Then now what I end up having to do on those Saturdays is now I have to piece together cover board work, right? I'm piecing together cover board work for individuals, for individual routes. That's not efficient. That's not efficient. And yes, I think with the choose up, if we sat down and we were able to sit down and try to get more Saturdays, Friday, Saturday, Monday off, we can do that, but that's not efficient like that. That's not, because then what you have is now you have a cover board that's sitting around on Saturdays. And you know, I just like you, I went back and I looked at all those deals. Like, that's not efficient.
So, well,
That's not
what's
right.
not fair to you, Mr. Kimbrough, is that you've never seen a schedule bid with a full staff.
Well, and I can't admit to say I
And
haven't.
that makes it frustrating for our side, because we have not been able to let you see what it was like prior to the pandemic. I mean, if you go to the Choose Up, I know every time I've offered to show the Choose Up prior to the pandemic, that was when we had full staff. I mean, since the pandemic is hit, we continuously lose individuals we had 71, 72 drivers at that time. We're down to 54, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're almost 20 drivers down, we're approaching 20. And-
However, on Saturdays, it would be at times 10 to 12 people at certain times on a Saturday, sitting in the break room.
No, okay, so I will agree with you, Ms. Ellis, that somehow there needed to be some efficiency when it came to assigning extra work. Now, I will say, that's probably because you don't have the software that can schedule the people out to where they're supposed to be. It was all being done by hand, right?
Correct.
So, and then what happens, so right now, we've worked with your team to try to get a Choose Up. We have not been able to counter back, and I'll tell you why. Because when we go to do it manually and get there, we can't figure it out due to the fact there's not enough employees, right? There's no way to figure out, I don't even know how you can even fill the work, because you don't, you can't, there's not enough extra board operators to cover the work, right? There's not enough extra board operators to fill vacations, right? There's not even enough people to fill vacation work, right? Is that what we've seen, right, Elaine?
Yeah, we only have 3 on the extra board right now.
3 on the extra, and so, until we can have a full staff, we're not gonna be able to see what's right. Can we go back to where people are able to pick their off days? We had a discussion about this, and I just want you to know that I think this is something that we need to spend some time, but it's frustrating because we don't have a full staff, and that.
but wouldn't if you expect someone to pick a run, perhaps in part based upon which days they would have off?
So, I know this maybe, it depends on the individual.
Well, and
It-
it may
Ms.
just
Yule-
have to be, something that they can determine on their own.
Ms. Yule,
But can you
people-
also understand management's concern about being efficient and not having to redo every single run based upon which off day the an operator would like?
Well, it's not, okay, it's not what you're saying. We never had issues when we did this, but, when it comes to picking off days. But, because you only have so many off days you can put for a Monday, for a Tuesday, a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
Right.
There's only, we would figure out there'd be, I don't know, I'm just throwing out a number, 10 people could be off on Saturday. I think it's more, it's like 14, but whatever. 14, and those would be eliminated as they pick their shifts, right? So what I'm trying to say is, right now, what we're facing is a moment, until we get a full staff, this is gonna be difficult to even figure out. Because, again, when you say they're picking their shifts based on the off days, that's not true. Depends on the individual.
No, I said it could,
Yeah. Yeah.
they could pick their schedule based upon which days they would have off.
Right,
That
some
would be
some
one
people would pick it
consideration.
some people pick it based on off days, some people pick it based on the actual schedule, right? Some people wanna work early straights.
Right.
Some wanna work late straights.
It depends on what
Some
job.
people need a split in between,
But
whatever.
in this scheme, they would, potentially, there is a choose up, and they would have the opportunity to pick their assignment.
The only thing I'm trying to say to you right now is that, under the current circumstances, the union's very hesitant about this because of the practice that's been going on since the pandemic started, which is, you have an ops manager who has been creating this choose up and assigning the off days, and the appearance from our side is that he assigns it, and it becomes almost like Mr. Kimbrough disagrees maybe, but I think our team agrees. It feels like there's a favoritism thing, or if there's a deliberate effort in some situations to do what you're going to do, and now suddenly seniority looks like it's being targeted, okay?
Well, I think we hear your concern.
Right.
So, do you have any other questions about this article?
Let me continue. So is management only doing the choose up going forward? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think we pointed out that the union official can review the choose-up list and seniority list prior to posting. I think there are other, have you read
I'm asking
this?
these for a specific reason. And the reason is, because currently the union is involved with doing the choose up. And that's pretty common in training, just so you know. It is common. In fact,
Have you read through the rest of the provision?
is it in there? Are you telling me? Where is it?
I don't know what you're looking for exactly.
Thank you.
Where are you,
I
where are
mean,
you?
yes,
on?
management will conduct the choose-up, but certainly, as I pointed out at the top
No,
of
that's not what I'm looking
35.
for. I'm looking who's actually doing the choose up, management, the union.
Well, it states,
Who's
that on
conducting?
page 34, under section 3, all
Right.
choose-ups will be conducted by the operations manager or designee.
Okay, I wanna make sure I understand, because
That's what it says.
historically, this has not
But
been very
then the
successful.
union has participation, if you read through the provision.
35.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, I see that. So the 30-day vacated, then they go, I'm assuming, what are you trying to do? Go, have them go to the, does that go to the bottom of the bid, or where do they go? Or the, turns after extended leave, that would not be eligible for the bid. And be placed at the extra board, on the extra board until the next choose it. Where were they placed on the extra board? Does it say? Did they go to the bottom? Where do they go?
It would be just like we currently do right now, they go to the bottom of the board until the next choose up. This is exactly what we do right now. We just, if someone vacates, they vacate their run for 30 or more days, when they come, when they return. I mean, but it still adds in there where we can do bump downs and everything too, so it's still like we can still do a bump down, but right now, currently, I know, that's been one of the issues that, and certain individuals have been upset because they had to go to the bottom of the board.
Okay, so section 3, you start to talk, we talk about selecting buses, is that correct? May request a bus.
Mhm.
We had a grievance, I don't think we ever got a grievance response. I think I made a suggestion on that, and I haven't heard back, but I'm trying to understand. So, let me ask this, are you open to the suggestion I made in our grievance, in our discussions?
So that's where it's in here now, like full-time operators may request a bus at each choose up. However, the county reserves the right to make a final decision regarding the assignment of buses, because the county will make a reasonable effort to accommodate operators' requests. That's
Okay.
why, that's in there to make sure that again, for instance, like, again, Ms. Archibald deserves the right to be number 2, right? Currently, right now, my fleet is not in great condition.
Correct.
But once I'm able to get the fleet like we talked about before, I'll be able to make every reasonable effort to accommodate the operator's request. Because I know, A, B, C, or D, we know, because kind of what they do right now, I still don't select buses every day. We don't select buses for the individual operators. Each individual bus is lined up, the ones that are available, and it's still, you still get to choose. I'm not selecting. Well, the operations manager they're not selecting, or the dispatch is not selecting the actual buses for the individuals. Everyone is still choosing their buses. I just don't complain because as I told before, I want us to accommodate everyone as best as we can.
So I made a suggestion during the grievance process, and that suggestion was to try to help accommodate you, but it was also to accommodate the idea of allowing operators to still exercise their seniority, which was the idea that during the choose-up, you have a specific run. And on that run, you've determined that the following buses could be utilized on that, because you said it's about mileage, correct?
Yes, it is.
And so if if there are 4 buses that meet the criteria for that particular run, right? Those buses would be listed. And based on seniority, they would be scratched off, and then at least it would give operators the idea of being able to select, based on their seniority.
Yes, sir, I understand that. Okay, and because we've had this conversation, I would like for the question to be asked to individual drivers, operators right now. When they're getting their buses, or who's choosing their buses for them? I would just like that question to be asked, like who's actually choosing the buses? Because currently, right now, when I've been there in the morning, I know who works, and you're pretty much still getting to select your bus by the one that you like the best, even right now. Currently, that's still a current practice right now, because I've told everyone to make sure that they do their best to accommodate every operator. I know I have a situation with the vehicle miles, and I know I have that issue, but I said, hey, I want to make sure, and if you're telling me right now, or if someone can tell me right now that they're not doing everything they can to accommodate that, then I'll go back to management again to let them know that, hey, do your best to accommodate. Because I know right now that the bus selection is still being done.
I get what's happening being done, but I'm looking at the language here. It says, full-time operators, instead of have a right, may request a bus at each choose-up, okay? So however, the county reserves the right to make that final decision. My
And that is
question,
the case now, and
Mhm.
that, as Mr. Kimbrough has communicated, the county does make every effort to try and accommodate those requests, and there's no intent to change that.
okay. I just, there's gotta be a reason why you're trying to change this language. So I'm trying to understand the real intent of why you're trying to change the language. I'm trying to be, it says the county will make a reasonable effort. I'm trying to give a reasonable effort
It
right now.
doesn't make sense to say that they have, okay, so yes, whether you say may request or have a right to request, at the end of the day, the county still has the right to make the final decision.
Yeah, I read this paragraph. It's
So-
just
So
been
that doesn't
reworked,
really change anything.
Not change.
So, I know you're not on the property, but I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that it can be manipulated, or chosen to be manipulated by management. And next thing you know, you have an employee that's got 1 year of service driving a bus and a senior person driving a 98 bus, okay? The senior person's sitting there going, I got 30 years and I'm driving the old 98, and why is this new employee driving that newer bus? I'm trying to, we get those questions, okay? You don't get them, we get them, and they're asking us why?
Well, part of it, just to reiterate what Mr. Kimbrough says about the mileage, the requirements that we are now in the process of trying to clean up, as far as where the mileage is dispersed evenly on all of our vehicles. And when there's one that's overly used and one that's not, then we have an issue as far as the mileage that's being reported. So if it's not that someone is intentionally allowing a person that has 1 year drive a newer bus, whereas a person with 30 years is driving an older bus, it's to ensure that we have consistency and equity as far as mileage among the vehicles per FTA on all of the fleet. So it is not.
I'm over here, you can look at me over here. I'm right here. I'm looking at you, I'm listening to you. I'm curious about this because it's important. I have
It's
people
very
ask me.
important, because I was looking at both mics, but I'm sorry, I'll look
Okay,
at
I
this mic.
appreciate it.
Sorry, Mike.
I was enjoying what you were saying.
But that's one of our concerns specifically. So I don't know if anyone is intentionally allowing one person
Yeah,
versus
but
the other
they're
person
taking it
to
out.
operate a vehicle. If a vehicle's down for a PM inspection,
I can't control that.
we can't control it.
Tanya, I agree with that.
However, what we have to do to ensure that we have a fleet that is equitable, so we can start replacing the fleet as we should have been many years ago. I can't speak to what
I know,
was done
there's a lot of
previously.
failures that happened in the
Yes,
past.
but
I don't
we've got to
disagree.
be consistent on the way that we are providing that mileage on all of our fleet. So it is not directed at any individual operator.
Tanya, but I want to throw this out there.
Mhm.
All I'm trying to say to you, I mean, you've been around a long time.
Mhm.
You understand how important these little things are. It might not be important to maybe Ms. Huell, who doesn't deal with transit every day and deal with the operators, but you and I deal with the operators every day. The operators come walking up to us, okay? They're the ones that walk up to a dispatcher, to Ms. Kimbrough. Why am I not being able? So all I'm suggesting is, what about the thought process of you all controlling, we're only doing a choose-up, a general choose-up 4 times a year, correct? 4 times a year. 4 times a year, when you do your choose-up, you're gonna look at a specific run. Let's just throw out a route, Route 52. You know how many miles are on that route. You would be able to determine as management which buses could be utilized and be over a period of time for that choose-up, and understand how many miles that bus is gonna be driving back and forth from Cordova Mall and Pensacola State College. You would be able to say, okay, bus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are eligible to go on that route. That way, the person that chooses to pick Route 52, at least based on their seniority, they're picking, they won't have the selection of all the fleet, but they have a selection, they have a choice. And I just took that choice from the entire fleet that they're used to picking down to a smaller choice, which accommodates your need with mileage and the FTA requirements, but it does not take away their seniority rights. And I would be able to approach people in that way. I'm 100% behind you when you're all trying to get the new fleet and what you have to do. I agree. Once I learned this, I said, wow, who screwed this up years ago? You know, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone now, right? I'm just saying that I just don't want to take away, and I don't want conflict later when the language is completely out of the contract, not this kind of language that's here, which kind of gives you the total control, and it gives you the ability to point to one word and say, it says may.
No, management already had sole discretion.
Yeah, but it was a long practice,
But that
long
was,
practice.
But that was
That's-
the wrong practice though, Mr. Larry, that's what I want us to be.
Do you
able to
want,
go
are you
forward.
trying to take that practice away? That's what I'm trying to say to you. You had the discretion, but you practiced a certain way, meaning, remember, you know, your successors did that. What I'm trying to tell you is that we could be reasonable on both sides to
But that's
find
what
a
I'm-
way to get there that works out for everybody.
Well, I'll tell you, Ms. Larry, I'm being as candid as I can be, like, I would not be in support because I have a passion for us to be able to get the things that we need for the translation. I could not be in support of selection of buses because I know the impact. I know that's not a common practice in
When you
transit.
get to full fleet that we should have, you'd probably have my support. I'd be like, okay, it
But
doesn't
I-
matter,
but
they're
I-
all the same damn buses.
I-
Drive one of them, right?
I would never be able to get to that though if I allow this to be a practice. That's why, right now, currently, it's days upon days on attempting to try to figure out where the actual, where can we get the funding to be. We still picking up from the previous contract where they were allowed to to select their buses. We're hurting because of those things. And I know you don't want us to hurt, Ms. Lara, I know you don't. But that's what's hurting us. I can't support the selection of buses because we're hurting because of it. That I promise you we are. Because of all the years of that practice, what became a common practice, that has put us in a predicament to where we have an aged fleet.
But that
Yeah.
wasn't, well, just for the record, we're being
Uh-huh.
recorded, that's not the fault of the workers.
No, it's not the fault.
It was the
Again,
fault of management.
It's the fault of
Okay.
management. That's
So-
why I'm standing before you right now, as management saying that. That's why I can't support that, because the previous management from
So-
before, they allowed this practice. And you and I both know there's not a common
I
practice.
wish he'd be able to come to sit at the table, okay?
no, you
I gotta look around him all the
No.
time.
Well, but that's not a common practice in transit. In any organization.
I
any
just, I
transit agency.
absolutely 100% agree with you. What I'm trying to say to you,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Kimbrough, is this. When you have a long practice like you did, what we have, and you have a lot of those existing employees that have been dealing with it, to just unilaterally take it away from them. And you don't, it'd be different. If you had a fleet of buses coming in right now.
Yes, sir.
And you know how long we're away from that.
Yes, sir.
If you had them coming in, I'd be able to support you and say, look at everybody, times are changing, things are getting better. Look at those nice buses out on that yard, all those buses. Things are gonna change. We can no longer pick by seniority. But I can't. So all the workforce sees, Mr. Kimbrough, is this. They see language in their labor agreement go away, and they don't see the results of what you're trying to achieve.
So, but I guess that's the point that I'm making when you
Just
say
the opposite.
partnership, like right now currently, it's been a common practice. Why can't it be a conversation and communication between you and I to our workforce there at ECAT that, hey, in the past, I know we got an opportunity we've got to choose buses, but that has prevented us from being able to go
Okay, I'm
forward.
gonna show my good
And that
faith, I'm gonna show you my good
wasn't in
faith
the
effort right now.
contract.
Ready
It
for my good
wasn't-
faith effort?
Yes, sir.
You told me you had a meeting in May, right? In May, your mandatory meeting coming up in May, correct?
Yes.
Put this on the agenda, let's open it up, let the employees hear it from both sides, as far as that's what your intent is. Let's
Yes.
speak out, educate them, and maybe we'll have some good results, we can come back, and this kind of article will be no longer the type of issue we're dealing with. I worry about,
The language in the old contract did not require management to allow operators to pick their buses.
Ms. Hugh, with all due respect, you're an attorney, I know you see it that
That's
way.
not the way that it was written in the old contract, and that's, in this contract,
I hear you.
management still would have the right to ultimately determine.
But I agree with you, but I also agree with this. Maybe you
We
don't.
need to educate.
Is
We-
this,
we-
is this.
we need to jointly
The
educate
practice
them.
has been a one way. How do you, that, while we're in labor negotiations, and yes, you now can take away a practice, correct? You could try to take away the practice, and it's no longer significant, right? Going forward.
Sure.
Mike agrees. It doesn't mean that it's not gonna end up with an impact on them. Because you take something away, there's gonna be an impact by the workforce. The workforce is gonna say, why did they do that? Why? You haven't educated them, they don't understand.
People aren't trying to take anything away.
Yeah, so I guess
I know
that's,
you think you're not taking anything away, but you are.
I think we.
See,
we've
if I say this to
belabored
her,
the point,
if
so
I
let's
say this
move
to
on.
Miss Ellis, George Stallworth took care of his bus for 30-some years till he died, just practically on the job, correct?
Mhm.
He was a proud man, wasn't he?
He was a very proud man.
Cleaners would clean buses at night, and he'd show up in the morning and go clean the bus again himself.
Correct.
He didn't want no one touching his bus and he would lecture the person that was relieving him to say, my bus better look good the next day when you take over from me. He said, because the look of this bus reflects on me. A lot of operators feel that way. Some don't, some do. Now, there are some of us that think, hey, you should be able to drive every single vehicle on the fleet, correct?
Sure.
And it shouldn't really matter as long as I'm getting paid $19.66 an hour. That is correct. But to get to the next level, we have to communicate, we have to work through this and find a reasonable way to get to that path. Not to just say, boom, and then I don't know that once this happens, you're just taking everything away. Now, he's already told me that nothing's happening right now. I'd rather work with you to start to gradually move towards that direction so employees start to see the future, okay? And I really would love to see new buses on the property
And that is a huge goal.
That is.
Are we ready to move on? We still have several articles to discuss. If we're gonna go back through them line by
Okay.
line, this is gonna take all day.
I understand. It's, you know, well, I'm willing, well,
So is Mr. Howard not going to be able to join us again?
I don't know if you were in the room, were you?
I was in the room and
Did I tell you what happened?
I think you did.
Was she in the room when I mentioned what happened to his son?
I think so.
Yes.
So I don't know. He's
Okay.
not texted me.
Well, are
So-
we ready to move on to Article 32 then?
Second, no, he has not responded, so I'm very concerned about that. Article 32,
But we're all concerned about it.
Yes, of course.
yeah, of course.
That's, I was only asking.
I understand, okay. The number of routes to be furnished. Okay, this is okay. What is Elaine? Okay, I think she brought something here. Let me look at this.
Full-time operator should be guaranteed 40 hours a week.
Yeah, that's
That's not to say that they're not gonna work a full-time shift.
So obviously, seeing that sentence that's been in the contract for a long time to be, that's concerning us, because we want, you know, then seeing that you took out the part-time,
What page are you on?
36, section 4 was struck through. You know, just to speak freely and to get you to understand our thought process, seeing you strike through the part-time language that said 10 would be the limit, and then striking through section 4, and.
Well, if you
and
would like, we can consider restoring that.
obviously, that would be something we would appreciate, because we think that,
It was not, I don't believe it was the intent
No.
to suggest that full-time employees would work less than 40
40
hours
hours.
a week.
Right.
No.
yeah, and just FYI, and I know you want to keep moving, but it's important to talk, and so I'll say this. At ECCT, many of the drivers don't get they're full-time to them is 32, 34, 36 hours, whatever. They don't get full 40. And that has caused a continuous rotation of workforce coming in and out, because people can't live off that. So 40 is important. Okay, let me move on. Let me see what else here. So then let me make sure I understand this part, section 4, shift exchanges. Okay, is it just a rewording? Is that what you did?
Yes.
It's just rewording the way it was
Just shift
written.
exchanges, yes.
But you did not take that ability away, is that correct? You did not take that out.
I think you should read through it, but yes, there's still
Oh, I'll
a
read
shift
through
exchange
it, but
provision.
I'm trying to do a quick overview. You know, please be fair, and if you did make some kind of significant change, tell me about it. Otherwise, I will take the time to read it and understand.
I don't know what you interpret as a significant change, so I can't answer your question.
Okay, so we'll keep moving. Okay, let's move to 33.
Okay.
33, Lane, we're on 33. So, while I know a lot about this article, I will also tell you that this has been one that Elaine and others have participated with us.
And
with our
this is no
concern.
different than what we've proposed in the past, so you've seen it.
Well, we haven't, so this is the article, Ms. Huell. This is the article I wish we had worked on outside of negotiations, okay? I'm just being straightforward, because this is one that is gonna take time to work through. I think both sides should be talking this one through. I think we can find common ground, but we need to kind of go paragraph by paragraph and discuss it and find a mutual ground. But I can't get management to sit down and talk about it. I mean,
So
this
what's
is-
your issue right now on this particular one?
Elaine, you wanna jump in, Jim? What we seen?
We no longer have a vacation relief board. It's all, extra board now.
I think there's a whole section on vacation.
Yeah, we had an MOU though, and,
There is a section called Vacation Relief Board, and I think Tanya
Section
and
3.
Rod can speak to that.
Extra board choose,
Have you seen section 3?
yeah,
Okay.
extra board choose, the vacation hold down now. It's all on the extra board, and it goes in seniority. And, I think they usually, not on Fridays, they usually do the bid, on Thursdays. Let's give, supervisor time enough to get it into the computer for Monday, for their assigned work for that Monday.
What was wrong with our proposal that we gave you on March 2nd? What was bothering you on ours? I'd like to hear from management. What was the concerns that you had on the proposal the union worked on? I appreciate
March
it.
2nd?
And Tom, you do know that this is something that's very significant, it's day-to-day
Yes, I know it's
operational
very
thing. So
significant.
I appreciate us kind of talking through this a little bit.
I have it right here.
All right, do you minutes to look at it every time?
Okay.
Why don't we go on, and while she's looking over that?
Sure, we can.
Next is-
Okay,
like
let's go,
maintenance.
let's just, while she takes a moment and go through that, we can talk about uniforms for a second. I think Mr. Kimber, they're probably gonna want us to not talk about uniforms without them there too, so
No, it's okay.
let's get uniforms and,
Okay.
so let's go to let's jump to 35 and then we'll come back to the other two.
I think this article we've seen several times, it's pretty
Well,
self-explanatory.
I obviously have questions, okay? I want to ask some simple questions that I think are simple, okay? So, let me get to it. So we just recently had a little budget class from you all. I wish Mr.
Go ahead.
Howard was involved with this conversation.
Well, if you
So-
want to wait and have that conversation with him, you can.
We might do that, but let me
Go ahead.
just ask a question. So I want to make sure I read your Article 35. You're proposing that the structure that's in place, that you put in, that you proposed here under Section 1, right, is the pay structure, correct? So,
Those are intended to represent the current wage rates.
correct, but it shows years of service, so there still is a progression here. So if I'm asking this question, so if I'm a new hire and I come in and I'm making, after training, I'm making $14.75 an hour. So when I hit my month 25, I will automatically then go up to $16.71, is that correct?
Mr. Lowry, it's all on the paper.
That's correct.
I'm just asking, I want to make sure
That's correct.
there's
This
still.
is intended to be exactly what is in place right now, current wage rates,
Okay,
base wages, yes.
okay, so I just want to, I'm making sure, I mean, if I don't ask, I won't know, will I?
I answered the question.
Okay, so, all right. So has there been a discussion regarding any structured discussion of beyond what I heard Ms. Gilly say, that there will be no pay raise? Is there any, are you taking the position that there'll be no pay raise for this bargaining unit? Whether it's from the previous fiscal year or the current fiscal year or the upcoming fiscal year, is there any, are we not able to discuss pay raises?
We can only speak to what is today and what's on this paper.
This is our offer today, but if you're asking us if we're not, if you're asking us whether we will not discuss wages and the possibility of some wage action, the answer is we are willing to discuss wages and we're willing to consider a wage action. I don't know if we'll agree to one or not, but we're not closed the door to that.
Could someone tell me what the cost is for a 3% raise for the bargaining unit?
I don't have it off the top of my head, I have to go get that cost of that.
Okay, and so basically, okay, I think I know what it is, basically, I roughly I've costed it out, but the bargaining union's been shifting so much, it's not, the number keeps changing and going actually down. Okay, so what about the minimum wage? Let me ask the minimum wage. So when is that increase? Is it September 1st? Hi, Glenn. It's good to see you.
It's sometime, yeah, it's sometime in the early.
I think Jana could answer some of these questions in terms of how that will be phased in
Yeah, I
And
don't
how
think
that
we-
would be phased in? Okay.
Yeah,
with the minimum wage
obviously,
changing.
everybody is waiting on what the Florida legislature's gonna do in terms of making a substantive law around the constitutional initiative, so, we'll know better about how minimum wage is gonna roll out in the next couple of months.
Have you had the opportunity, I mean, I guess you have, you've seen our proposal on wages, correct? Let me phrase it a different way, Mike. We often discuss your proposal, but we never go and discuss ours.
No, that's not true.
I mean, what I mean by that is, I don't recall ever discussing in detail our proposal.
Oh, I think we have.
Okay.
I think I've sat through a full explanation of your proposal and your rationale for it.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, they're ready to discuss, so we'll go back to 33 then. Is it 33 or 30? Yeah, 33.
I wanted to talk to them first while they was over there.
Go ahead.
To explain what I
Here we
was
go.
talking about.
We're back to 33.
The extra board, correct? That's the one, I think.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Okay, the rotation, I guess that's from way back. So, Mike, what you wanted about the rotation?
Well, I mean, okay, because we jumped now, I've lost my place, so let me look.
You in, the extra board,
I gotta go back.
look on page 25,
Yeah, I
man.
know, I gotta go back.
Because like I
So
said, I
first
don't
of
know
all,
too
did you
much
have
about
questions
that.
About our proposal.
About 33? Well, I guess what I'm trying to say, I asked the question, had they looked at our proposal and what was their thoughts of our proposal? What was concerning about ours?
So, just from seeing the proposal right now, what we have again by having the vacation leave is all those different levels by the different time. Can I just see it again?
Sure.
So, when I,
Yeah, flip back the next, the previous.
so they're signing the work. When I go to this, I had to sign the work prior to 2 p.m. I got sign the work outside the window. I got all these different rules and all these different things. To me, all it does is just dilute the entire process. Makes it more difficult than it really even has to be. When I hear all the concerns that I've actually heard, 'cause honestly, even right now, I heard a concern about the vacation relief. That we do kind of similar to what we're doing right now. And I guess the best way to explain it, it looks like everything has to be written down, but everything that we're doing is currently written down in this black and white that was given. So I just don't understand like the complaints with what's been given, but this right here, it's just convoluted. It's just a lot of stuff, like a lot of wordage. So I guess my question is, well, what is it that you exactly want? Is it that you want to have a vacation, get to choose a vacation? You want to get to choose the extra board? Well, just tell me exactly what you want, because I don't, like reading this.
Okay, on the extra board, vacation, if 4 people on vacation, all of that is assigned on the extra board. So all extra board operators, if they want to take a vacation hold down, they'll choose a vacation hold down, or they pass, and they float or choose a run that's available open. 9 out of 10 if a run open because somebody out over 30 days or more. Okay, so that all I was saying, we didn't have a vacation relief anymore. It's all on the extra board,
Yes, ma'am, well, that's currently, because right now it's actually currently on, because we don't really have such a large board. But in section 3 of the proposal, it has a vacation relief board, and it says vacation relief board shall be created to replace operators on regular vacation for a minimum of 7 consecutive calendar days. And it says that it will be chosen, just like the extra board, by seniority. It says, see, vacation relief hold downs that are not bid shall be assigned in reverse order of seniority to junior vacation relief operators who have no assignment. It's like it's gonna be a vacation relief board. Like right now, currently, we don't have a vacation relief board because we don't have the extra board operator. But what has been written in this is that it's stating that we will have a vacation relief board. That's something that has to occur, and it'll be done in the seniority order like it should be. And you'll still have your normal extra board assignments, you know, your extra board or your extra work. It's all that's written in here. I didn't have a thorough opportunity to read the counter proposal for March 2nd, but when I read this, I'm telling Ms. Lyle, if you read this, Ms. Lane, if you read this, it has a vacation relief in here. And yes, it's not
Which
lengthy.
will be picked during the choose up, correct?
We been got that bit on the extra board.
Is it the extra board doing the vacation relief? Is that what's
Yes, we
happening?
been got rid of vacation relief.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. It's gotten rid of before, but now vacation relief is back there again. So now, it won't just be the extra board that's just doing the vacation relief. You'll actually have a vacation relief board.
Okay,
Okay.
so, but I guess I'm trying to ask this question. When you say vacation relief board, is that created at the time of the choose up when someone picks, I'm a vacation relief board person?
Yes.
Or are you saying it's off the extra board that creates the vacation relief board?
No,
It's the
Separate.
actual, it's separate, it'll be separate.
separate.
Okay, so just FYI, I've seen it all in 25 years. I've seen this done this way before, okay? We're willing to talk to you and work through this. I just want you to know, the biggest issue we've ever seen that causes the language that you see proposed by the union is that things get manipulated. And so we've got to get away from ensuring that things aren't manipulated and where things are even and fair, right?
But that's actually my goal, because right now, we're currently under right now, the process right now, by having the extra board and vacation, having all intertwined like that, it can be manipulated. Am I right or wrong? That's what's wrong right now. It can be
being manipulated,
It can be
yes,
manipulated
very
right now.
much.
And by
Well,
having
it's
this in this
been
language right now.
manipulated every time there's been some kind of system. It depends on we've seen manipulation on both sides. We've seen drivers attempt to manipulate it because they want to do the work, they want the overtime or whatever. And you got dispatchers that have manipulated because they're just trying to fill the work, right? So
Yeah,
so
no, I
we just
understand.
need consistency, and I'm willing to work through this with you.
Yes, sir, but I actually just read that though. If you get a chance to really read that, that's actually taking away that current practice that we have right now. This will take away that current practice that we're
Okay.
currently going through right now.
What else?
And I think this is
Extra
pretty,
fine.
I think this is a pretty, long and, dense article,
Yeah.
and I think it's fair to
Right.
take the time and read through
You got
it. But I
notes.
think he
I want
answered
you
your
to read
question.
So-
I think Mr. Kimbrough's answered your question.
Well, last session, we asked to meet with this outside of this right here, because I know this is something that you all don't really want to listen to, but for those of us that deal with it on a daily basis, we want to get into the weeds. We want to really talk through this article, and I'm hoping that we could meet outside of this session. Because it's not a discussion that happens in 30 minutes. Is it, Mr. Kimbrough? It's not. You're gonna have to spend a little time talking, right?
Yes, sir.
And, you know, Ms. Ellis,
Okay, that's.
we're not gonna negotiate this outside of this contract. Our suggestion is this, Mr. Matamore, Ms. Hewitt. Our suggestion from our side is this. Let us meet with management, go through this article. Whatever we finalize or come close to getting, at least we'll come back at the next session, Mike. We'll come back at the next session. We'll either be right on top of it and have it done, or else we'll be, have something, we can just say, boom, it's done. You all take a look at it, answer your questions.
I'll say what I said before is, let me get with, Ms. Ellis and discuss this, and then we'll get back to you on that. We just,
Okay. Obviously, this is a very lengthy article. I get
Yeah.
it. And, but it is, as you can see, very important. Let's go to uniforms then, and we'll discuss uniforms. Because I see Elaine took a lot of notes on 33, so. She has a lot of questions, right, Elaine?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, in the past, we had problem with, you know, you got people that wanna work overtime, you got some that don't. But what I'm reading here, if they wanna work overtime and get work first, they would have to be on the extra board. Or, my thing is that why it just can't be all professional operators sign up if they wanna do extra work and go in seniority.
That's in there too.
Yeah, it's. in
No,
there.
it's got
work is-
follow as,
Extra work is later in that.
part-timers, extra board, regular
Extra work and
operators.
extra work are two separate sections.
Yeah, extra work, if you go to section 6, it says, extra work will be assigned by seniority operators that make themselves available by signing up for extra work on the sign-up sheet as follows. It's in there, I'm telling you, Ms. Lane, I promise you. This one.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying, it have been manipulated so much where if you got operators will be assigned to extra work as follows, they're gonna go exactly in that order.
But I thought it says here that the extra work will be assigned by seniority to operators.
To operators that made themselves available by signing up for extra work on the sign-up sheet as follows. If possible, job assignments will not be split, provided there is a operator that is available who can perform the entire job. Then it says operators will be assigned to extra work as follows. You have part-timers, extra board, then regular operators. That have been manipulated in the past.
But I think.
And so,
I understand what you're saying, Ms. Lane, that's the point that I'm hoping that, I'm trying my best to get us away from the past.
Yeah.
So that I can get some consistency, because if they follow this, and again, I know.
I understand.
But if I can get them to follow this, like you
Actually-
said, where we go by the sign up list.
Right.
Like it's supposed to be done by seniority. If I have, if I got extra work, like right now, I know I got extra work that I need people to sign up for.
Right.
And when they sign up for extra work, if I get my dispatchers to go directly by that list like they're supposed to, then they'll be able to build a trust that they don't have currently right now. And I want that, I do. And
you know,
I'm
like
doing
Miss Boykins and Barnes went in there and we decided, you know, it's in seniority. And whoever, now it don't necessarily gonna be by seniority all the time, because you might have a junior operator signs up for that whole day,
The whole day.
could do that job first.
Yeah.
So,
But that's what it's saying on here though.
yeah, I just want to make sure, you know, it just don't,
I ain't gonna let them cheat you.
Okay.
I'm gonna do my best to try to make sure that nobody gets cheated.
I love the promises, but we
Well,
need
no,
Okay.
I said I'm
to
gonna
walk away saying, okay,
Yeah,
I got it.
It's written here though, like it's all written here, and I hear the complaints too. It's people that does it, it's individuals in supervisory roles that don't
Right.
follow
The
to the
exact
T like they
process.
should. And
Right.
I'm gonna make sure.
okay.
Cause that's why it's written here though. If you read it, everything in here that we want is in here, and it can't be manipulated.
Okay.
Did you write this?
No, I didn't write that.
Mr. Barnes wrote this?
No, Mr.
No,
Barnes didn't write
we
that.
don't-
No, Mr. Barnes.
No, this came out the, I think, the old one.
I just wanna make sure that we, you know, that's why something like this, Mike, we need to be able to sit down and have, and take our time. Because it's about being reassured. I heard Mr. Kimbrough. I trust him in many ways. I trust him. Trust me, he says, right? But I've heard that over the years. I'm not taking anything away from him. I've heard, trust me. And then later on, if I didn't go back and really think and walk through it and talk through it and understood the intent, then I got burned. You know, well, not me, but the members got burned. And I don't want that. I just want to make sure, because this is a daily thing, that if there's anything on the property that we hear the most about, it's this on a daily basis, right? Is how people are getting overtime and how the system works, how people get assignments. Okay?
Well, like I said, I'm gonna sit down with the sales.
All right, so,
Mr. Kimbrough,
Well, I
you
have a
get back
question
to me.
about that. Have y'all ever sent this out to all the employees, like from the union perspective, just send it out and like, hey, provide your input based off your experience and history, like what problems have you come across, to let each person provide input, so we can have some of those examples and backstory backstory to
Sure.
understand what
Sure,
problems were.
that's how, we've done that in the past, where we've done that, and got the input of the workforce. Trust me, I've had 3-hour union meetings talking about this, right? Where we sat in a meeting talking about extra work, debating, right? Gwen, she'll tell you, she was probably one of the best extra board operators you ever had in the history of ECAT. She will tell you that we argued it in union meetings for hours, and going back and forth of what we thought was fair and how the system should work. So yes, we have.
Okay, so let's,
Uniforms.
yeah,
This is important to us because I first want to start off by saying this before I ask any questions. I want to first praise Mr. Kimbrough and Ms. Ellis for their ability to work with me since our last session, where we had a couple Zoom meetings with the company, and that should be recognized. I appreciate that, Ms. Ellis and Mr. Kimbrough. And it made me feel a lot more comfortable about the uniform situation. Communication goes a long way. And it made me feel confident that there was a good intent. I loved the outcome of the established idea of the being able to go to a website, see your amount up on the screen as it deducted off, the various items up on the screen, and then you physically would have them on the property for them to look at as well, especially if they needed to try them on by size. So I think that was a great step in the right direction. I will say that I don't know where we're at now. I've heard rumors. I kind of don't get a little upset when I feel like I gotta get rumors rather than straightforward, that there are clothes on the property right now that people are seeing. I was hoping I would know about that first, but.
I don't mean to interrupt you. So some of the samples, their samples are coming to me in batches. So there are samples there, and they're in the operations manager's office, one large box. But that's not all of the uniform samples that will actually be coming on board. Because I actually did send an email again today, requesting that we receive, as you see, the uniform style that Mr. Stallworth has on right now. I would request of Ms. Ellis and Ms. Dompierre, I want to look at more of the athletic wear polos, the stain resistant, so I'm just requesting some samples. I know there were some questions about pen.
When you say stain resistant, is that the kind you put in the dryer and they come out and it's not wrinkled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, okay. Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, why not, right? Okay, just the only thing I will say about those, as I've seen in the past, those tend to fade or get worn down fast, but I'd like to see it, I think the employees would like that. Nobody wants to get up every morning and iron the uniform.
I think it breathes better too.
Right, for this weather.
As I promised you though, at what we said on the Zoom call, once all of the samples are in, I'm actually waiting on the embroidery, because I know you gave me your uniform with the ATU logo and
Right.
everything. Once that embroidery comes in, I was gonna bring you in so you could be able to see it all.
Okay.
It wasn't anything, I know somehow that,
Oversight.
I know somehow the uniform got out there, but it wasn't meant to be, I wanted you to be able to see it all with the embroidery.
So, I think once this uniform thing, Mike, is out there and it's in place,
sounds like it's working out.
I think the language will come behind it and it'll be finalized. But I do want to say one last thing though, which is this, is that, this is another one of those articles where I don't think, I think when we get them in place, I don't think the union even asked for a uniform increase, did we? No, we didn't. So, I'm just saying that, I don't know why can't we get these out of the way with a discussion and finalize this? And I want to make a note to you that the union was not resistant ever through this process to get the uniforms in place. We worked with management, every time we were asked to work with management, I feel that we worked with management, okay? Because some of the language prevents the union from, or at least I hadn't checked since the last time, but it comes across like the union doesn't have a say. There was a sentence that allowed the union to participate in the decision-making, and I think that sentence was struck through. Previously, I haven't looked to see if it was struck through this time, but I find, why would you strike through it if it's never been a problem? We have not ever resisted to try to stop management from providing uniforms. So
If you could be more specific about what you're,
let me find there's a sentence, let me find it.
if you're talking about the designation of a uniform supplier, I think we've discussed that at length.
Where's what page is that? Help me out, because this is a very lengthy
Page 45,
45, I'll just do it.
and that was in the old contract, when you were under contract with a private management company. But as I've explained, the county has a procurement process.
Right, I don't even have this discussion.
Yes.
So, I understand the county has that system, but it doesn't mean that you should, you know, that the union should not have the ability to have a discussion in that process for the final decision when you're selecting the uniforms. Why doesn't the union, why can't the union have a part of that process? Why can't, if you're putting it out for RFP, why can't the union serve
Well,
on the
in
RFP committee or
In
something?
the first place, and that's not to say that that wouldn't be possible, although it would be up to the purchasing department in the first instance to determine whether or not it would be most efficient and effective to issue an invitation for bids versus an RFP. An RFP would entail a selection committee, but that, who serves on the selection committee would also be determined by the Office of Purchasing. And usually it comes from the user department,
So purchasing decides who sits on the RFP
I
committee?
think so.
Or
I think
is
they
it-
usually,
To my knowledge,
I've never served on the selection
Yeah,
committee.
yeah,
I was
I've
just
had the
wondering.
pleasure a couple
Pretty-
of times.
pretty-
I served, I mean,
And it's really just who would have the most knowledge about the, you know, what's being procured, and that's usually people from the user department.
but RFP meetings are open to the public, correct?
For the most part, there are
Yes.
temporary exemptions on certain meetings
When the committee meets,
to negotiate, but, you know, so it's a little more complicated than that.
I just never wanna go through another, almost, how long are we now? I'm losing track, a year and a half?
neither do we, neither do we.
Of not uniforms
It's-
being in
it's-
place. I just don't wanna
It's
see that.
very
All right,
unfortunate situation.
so we'll skip to 36 now. 36. So, again, I want to jump in here. You were the one reviewing this one. Let me ask this question. Is technician P something that's really important to the county? To have a technician P?
That was status quo language.
I know, I'm just asking. Because they get paid the same as a tech one.
Correct.
I'm just asking.
I mean, so are you saying that the union would be agreeable to we can say that and like?
Well, I want to talk to the team, but I think with Jim and I had this concern about Tech P. When we saw that it was being paid the same as the Tech one, we were like,
It really shouldn't exist as a classification.
Well, there's some
So
information.
we'll talk about that.
So,
We'll get back
yeah,
to
it's
that.
not a classification really, because it just means information.
okay. Okay. Jim, what else you got on that?
I was looking for, I said I had, but this is further back than I've got it, so. What did we put in there for the second year? I don't see it in here.
That's not in here, that's not in here.
No, it's not even scratched out.
Would you bring it up?
Yeah, so.
Bring it up?
Yeah, we had a section in here and was TNA way back a long time ago, to where if a person held a master and bus ASE and had been with the company for 30 years, then that person or individual would become a master tech. And the reason why we discussed that is because after 30 years of working on diesel engines and stuff like that, the individual is gonna have a very limited source of information on automotive. And you know as well as I do, automotive changes constantly. So, I mean, your diesel engines don't run O2 sensors, they run NOx sensors. It's just a whole different field. And for a person to work on diesel engines for 30 years and then have to come forward to get the other 7, or I think it's 7, ASCs in automotive is just about an infeasibility.
Are you referring to what is stricken on page 50 as a note, which was in the old contract?
On page what, I'm sorry?
50?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Don't you reach the master tech class by your ASC certification?
Yeah.
So like, I mean, at no point is any from Tech 1 to Tech 3 not afforded opportunity to go and get their ASC certification. That's almost like me saying, I don't know, I can.
And yes, you're absolutely right. Everybody has an opportunity. Everybody's afforded an opportunity. But what I am saying is, with the way the world has changed right now, when I opened up the hood on an automotive vehicle, when I was their age coming in now, and it was an inline 6-cylinder with a single carburetor and a distributor cap. That's gone, okay? It's multi-port fuel injection. You don't even have a distributor anymore. I think you're running off engine positioning sensors. So the world has changed. But the field that some of the people in there and I work in and stuff like that, and I don't work on a lot of the county vehicles, I work on the buses, haven't kept up with that field.
So should they be a master technician and paid as a master technician if they're not a master technician? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, what I'm suggesting is if a person's done 30 years of working on that property and does the work, and
I don't know, I'm just standing again, as me being candid and frank, I just don't see where, that's like me, I was a combat medic for 20 years in the Army, but they couldn't allow me to be a doctor if I didn't go to school for it, they couldn't, it was just, they wouldn't. Like I don't know,
I just was considering years of service here, is what I was.
We understand what the request is.
What I was.
And that was what we had proposed.
So
This
was
is
the
what we
training, any
proposed.
type of training included in?
No.
Just years of
It's
service?
on the job experience is what he's talking about. On the job
Exactly,
training
and,
experience.
and
But how can you fix something if you don't have the training?
Well,
So,
let us,
so the discussion
The
in
certification
previous,
is a metric, that's what it is.
the discussion in previous,
I see what you're saying.
yeah.
okay.
In previous negotiations, when this language was accepted, there was the intent, Mr. Hall,
Yes, sir.
that the individual would qualify after 30 years because of on-the-job service, but they would be acknowledged that they were already doing the work. You understand? So they, maybe they don't have the past tests that are needed for that master. Is that correct, Jim?
Correct.
But it's acknowledged, and maybe the language is a little vague
That
in
they're
that,
that
but
they're doing.
they had already been doing the work.
But would you know that a person's qualified to do the work if they can't pass the test to become certified?
Because that's the point. We were in the discussions before, they're already doing the work. They're doing it on a day-to-day basis. It's just because they just don't have.
Well, question about the
Certificate.
distinction that the example you just gave, was there just a differentiation in title, like you said, that they were doing the work, so they were called that? Is there a difference in pay?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what,
Mhm.
oh, so
That's what
that's
it's
the
all
big,
about.
correct, that's the big delineator when it comes to truly
Mhm.
classifying someone and whether or not the minimum qualifiers are, but I understand what you're saying,
Mhm.
and I do think that that's further consideration, and I do recall having the conversation.
Yeah, and I'll give you a prime example. I've got a gentleman over there right now that due to COVID and the lockdown on the test sites and stuff like that, he was unable to get some of his certifications recertified, so he was bumped down to a technician too. Do you think he's still doing just doing technician 2 work? No, he's still doing master work, but he's,
Because he knows how to do it.
but right now, he's classified as a tech 2.
And his response to us is, maybe I should not be doing any more master work. So are we hurting ourselves or helping
Yeah,
ourselves?
so no, we hear you, and I'm gonna talk to Mr.
We
Brown
understand
about
it,
it,
actually.
actually.
We understand
Classifications.
Okay.
We're gonna run short on time,
Yeah.
so we should probably
Because
start
we
moving
need some,
along.
we need some time as a team to debrief.
Yeah.
So Jim, you wanna keep
That-
moving to
that-
30?
Well,
Are you still on 36 or you move to 37?
it's 37.
37.
And I guess from that, the county's not gonna reimburse us for taking the ASC test anymore, but they're still gonna be.
Oh, you're on 39.
Yeah.
He's
I-
good, 37.
Yeah.
37, I think you're good.
Yeah, 37, I'm good. The only thing I was wanting on 37 was the $800 that should be there for hours or something, because that's what the county gives.
Oh, yeah, that was, you're absolutely right. We just want to note to you that I think in our proposal of 37, let me look at it.
Yeah, I think we bumped it up to
I
what
think
the
we
county.
bumped it up to what the county fleet maintenance is getting.
Yep.
We did
Yeah.
1140.
1140.
And so we're gonna stay, similar to the county, that, our folks should be getting the same. So that, we just wanted to make sure that you recognize that in our original proposal.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
39,
39, from what I'm seeing, you struck through where the county's not gonna reimburse us for taking the exams. But they're still gonna hold us responsible for having the AASCs.
That's right, but you get supplemental pay.
what is the cost for the tests?
Every time you sign up for 2, it's $160.
160 for 2.
Yep. That's a rough figure, but I'm pretty close. But see, look for the one that said test cycles.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Lee, I'll see if they scratch that out. Maybe to move this a little further along, you can help me look in here. There was a section in here that said that we had to do at least, there's 4 test cycles a year, we had to take at least 2 test cycles and 2 tests per cycle.
Right.
And if it's still in here or if it's scratched out, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll look through that, Jim.
yeah.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking is, like I said, Mike, we're gonna have to go through this.
Yeah, because I guess what he's saying to you is that if you're gonna make, has that been taken out because it was required before to
It
take
was
the test?
required.
It
If
was
we didn't,
required.
if we didn't meet that, requirement, then we were subject
Okay,
to.
cool.
And I don't see where, maybe I'm missing it too, I don't see it where it's been struck
I mean,
out.
all technicians are required to show proof of certifications and expiration dates
Correct.
on or before January 1st, and failure to maintain certifications and provide required documentation will result in loss of supplemental pay. And I guess potentially a demotion if you don't maintain the certifications for the current classification.
Jim, I think you're referencing
Yeah,
on
it's
page
references-
56, section
it's-
4,
Where is it?
on section
Okay,
4,
I
page
just found it
56.
in here, so.
It's on the
You found it in the contract.
Yeah.
section 4.
I think I think you're speaking to section 4, page 56. Is that what you're referencing? About the 4 times, at least one
Yes,
ASC?
yes, that's what I was in reference to, so it's been struck out as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
So they say they
And-
don't have to take the test anymore, is that what they're saying?
No, you have to maintain your certification for
If
your
you want to.
job.
It says you have to provide the proof that you successfully completed the certification.
To get the supplemental pay and to have that, hold that position.
But if they choose not to take any tests, they just would be bumped down to whatever that is, and that would be their position. They'd be a type one,
Right, they wouldn't get,
doing,
they would get terminated.
huh?
No, yeah, they would get terminated in discipline. They just would lose the supplemental pay because they lost the certification.
I missed
Well, I
that.
guess-
One little part, it kinda, I'm sorry, did you say they would not get terminated?
Yeah.
Well,
They would not get terminated.
You'd have to maintain the job requirements of a Tech One, which is
Correct.
certification in 608 AC repairs, 609 refrigerant management, minimum of 1 year direct automotive experience, blah, blah, blah.
But
So
just to go back
potentially-
to what Jim was asking, the question if it's a requirement to take the test within at least 2 of the 4 test cycles.
Right.
Is that what your question was?
That's what was my original
Original
question.
question. And
And so
that's
it's-
stricken out, that
And
there's
that's
a
stricken out.
requirement.
It's been stricken
that-
out, so you do not fall under that avenue anymore. You're just responsible for keeping up your own certifications.
Yeah, yeah.
And you also need to look at the certifications. I think it's either in automotive, you got 9.
Right,
It's-
but 9, I know, I think we discussed that before. and
Yeah,
why
because
it
that's
started.
natural gas. One of them's natural gas, and that building is not equipped to be working on natural gas. We don't want another explosion out here with the trucks.
Understood.
All right, so, Article 40,
40.
customer service.
Is it?
The only thing I got for 40 is
It's TA.
It's TA, yeah. And I don't know why we left in lead customer service associate position will be agreed on in MOU. I don't know why we did that.
Well, we can take
I
that
don't
out.
think I don't think you'll ever create that position again, will you?
What was it?
Lead customer service associate position. All right, Article 41.
41 trolleys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see how it went. We can keep going.
All right, 42 retirement.
42 retirement. Okay, I see how you want to do the sick leave payout. I think you haven't changed your position.
That's consistent with county policy.
So, under group health insurance, full-time employees currently employed on the date of ratification of agreement with at least 20 years of service who retire between the ages of 60 and 64 may elect to participate in the county group health insurance program, single coverage plan. Until the age of 65, qualifying employees will be required to pay a single employee contribution rate, employee contribution. Just curious, I don't know information, you're doing that for all county employees, or just asking?
So it's a little bit more complicated, yes, technically, that delineator is in there, but it just depends on like your special risk, there's other delineations depending on what plan you're in, if you're in the investment plan or the regular pension plan.
Right.
So there are differences there, this would be what would be applicable to you all, rather
Okay.
than what you are getting. And the reason why the 65 is at the age of 65.
You can get on Medicare.
You're eligible, and honestly, from a cost efficiency standpoint, it's
Mhm.
cheaper for you than Medicare.
Now
Right.
that pay would be with the single, what you're currently paying while you were employed?
No, so it would technically be, it's saying that you would be paying the employee, but what you're paying now, but also what we pay on y'all's behalf. So the cost would be different.
All right.
So otherwise, you know, the alternative, I suppose, since you would be no longer employed, would be to go out and buy health insurance
Of
on your
course.
own. So, and presumably, you know, the county's plan would offer a better rate, I would assume, than if you were just going to buy your own.
Well, it's-
Right, okay. So 40, what is it, 43, 44 TA, and then you have management. What's that?
Do something on management.
No, we're still looking at it right now, we're still, okay, I know we understand your position on managements. Oh, wait, did you just strike through, let me just look at something. Oh, you changed it. Did you change the last section there? You struck all the way through it now.
Yep, this references the statute.
This is what we were doing last time, right?
No, your last proposal, I thought, had, was different.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, your last proposal kept section 2 in there, but you changed it from 10 days to 3 days, business days.
Yeah, it's just referencing the statute, that's all.
Okay, so you're offering the same, oh, you're offering your pursuant to 4, okay, okay. All right, so then, can I look here? Sure. We have a TA on 48, is that correct? Duration of agreement?
Yes.
Okay. 49, rehire, didn't we have, where do we have with that? Didn't we have a TA?
No.
I have
We
a,
were really, yeah, we
have-
were really close last time.
what did you, what did they put for 49? They listed it? It says- it says waiver.
Limitation.
That's what.
Oh, we might have numbers mixed up now, so let me just,
No, we didn't TA
Where-
that article.
for rehire policy? I have a note, we TA'd it November 20th, 2020, and then we agreed to the 1 year deal for separation, which is kind of the exercise you do with one together luck.
Right.
You're saying you did not TA on November 20th?
10, 28, 20, yeah, what I got.
Which one?
10, 28, 20. Yeah.
Discussion regarding 49.
I got a TA. On 49.
I have the former bargaining unit, you TA'd off of ours. Well, it was verbally TA'd at the table. Former
So,
bargaining unit, will
Not
you?
in writing.
I know, but that's why I'm asking. It's never
I have a
been-
note that says, union provided verbal counter, and you asked to reinsert the article, then you provided discussion regarding union counter for Article 49.
Do you have a proposal from us from November 20th, 2020?
Yes, and it includes,
I have 11:20 TA, verbally, 11:20:20, 11:14 a.m., verbally with M9.
here's your proposal. You have anything signed, I don't have anything signed.
So are you not good with what that says?
This is our current proposal.
49?
Where?
I don't see one for 49.
That's correct.
Good.
Wait, hold on, Mike, I just wanna ask this question. So, there's some communication that we had across the table about this, and now you're not agreeing to it?
I'm going to, we're gonna research that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't have a signed TA.
I-
So if you do.
I agree, there is no sign.
Okay.
I have a note that there was across
We
the table.
definitely discussed it.
And then, when I usually write that down, that means that the TA was gonna be typed up and it
We're
was
gonna
brought
check it,
for
I'm
the
gonna
next
look
session.
into it, we did that for you.
Okay,
Restore it in TA.
okay. So then we have 50 cell phone.
TA.
TA, right, good, okay. And then we have 52, there is no 51, correct? No.
Well,
TA, right? Is there a 51?
No.
there's a successor clause and we move to the general provisions.
Yeah, we moved that to, yes. So 52 is TA, no strike, no lockout. And then 54, I don't have, 53 is deleted, correct? Correct?
Correct.
Okay, 54
TA.
is TA, correct? And then 55, which we gave you a proposal on a 55, which is the technology and bus operated compartment barriers. We haven't heard back from you.
Okay, we don't have to,
Okay,
And then it's the general provisions.
and then there's,
Which we did.
wait, what about 56 miscellaneous?
No,
Or whatever the number is, it says 55, but
yes.
the numbers are out of
We're
whack.
withdrawing a previous provision, they're not approving.
Okay, but we gave you a proposal on it.
Proposal on which
You
one?
may have, yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that we understood that we gave you a proposal. And then, yes, general provisions.
Okay.
Okay, which is TA.
Yeah.
All right, so, okay. All right then, what? You guys, when do you want to, what time is it? It looks like it's probably 3:15. When do you want to discuss, what do you want to look at next? It's like, I've not heard from Mr. Howard, so,
We don't
Don't
know.
know.
his son was choking at the house, so.
That's not good.
We don't know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
we don't
what
know.
happened. He had
Tried to
leave
call him.
because his son was choking.
We
so.
tried to call him several times during lunch and
I heard a child on
Right.
Yeah, Spider-Man always goes on the thing.
all right. So why don't we wait and see, what's going on with Curtis, and then we'll schedule another day.
Okay, so we'll,
Because
to
I'm
offer
sure
it.
you'll want,
Yeah, I need to get with him, obviously, because his calendar is the one that affects us more than mine.
I agree.
You know, I can work
and
through
ours,
mine.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that, and, let me give you, because we had, now I've lost track of everything. We had some proposals for them, didn't we? Yeah. And I think we still wanted to hand the proposals across the table.
Sure.
Hang on.
sure, I got him right here, Mike.
This is yours. That's yours. That's your copy.
That's my copy.
So Mike, before we walk away, we want to give you 3 articles. Do I need to put my mask on? Even though I've had my shot. And then we would like to ask one last thing, but I don't know if you can do it. I would appreciate it. Ms. Ellis and Mr. Kimbrough, or whoever else, Ms. Still. If there's any way you could talk to us after the session, since Ms. McCormick's here, we'd like to talk to you. Since she's physically here.